This
Commission
conference will now be recorded.
2 at 6 p.m. Thank you to those that are listening to our live audio feed. And just a reminder that those that wish to make public comment during the meeting are encouraged to attend in person in our chambers or send their comments to the town clerk prior to the meeting. Town Clerk Avery, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Pugh,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hassett,
Present.
Commissioner Cutts,
Here.
Commissioner Beachlet.
Here.
And Mayor Holman.
Here. Would you please rise and join me for the pledge?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any deletions, additions, or modifications to the agenda?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right. I will entertain a motion on the approval of the agenda as amended or not amended.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Don't need to call that vote. All right then. Here's the good part. Next on the agenda is the Dorothy Taylor proclamation. Our time could not be more perfect. Take your time, Dorothy. Go down right here.
You want to take your photo?
Right, Dorothy, these are for you, and I'm gonna put them right here, okay? And then y'all can take this over, right? Aren't they cute?
Actually, things you've seen.
You're just fine. All right, ma'am. Whereas Dorothy Taylor was born on December 6th, 1922, in Illinois. And whereas Dorothy Taylor moved to Florida with her daughter, Sarah, after she divorced her husband. And whereas Dorothy Taylor became a nurse in Illinois in the early 20s, later obtained her nurse practitioner license. And whereas Dorothy Taylor moved to the town of Bryan Breezes while her Ocean Ridge home was under construction. And whereas Dorothy Taylor was one of the first single women in Palm Beach County to apply for a construction permit for a new single-family home in the city. And whereas Dorothy Taylor has resided in her home at 16 Fayette Drive since it was built in 1969. And whereas Dorothy Taylor had to fight the banks for a construction loan at a time when single women weren't believed to be financially capable enough to manage a serious loan commitment. And whereas Dorothy Taylor struggled to find an architect and a building contractor to take her serious enough to manage the construction on top of a full-time job. Whereas Dorothy Taylor had to conquer her own fears to build her dream home that would later serve as a home for her family. And whereas Dorothy Taylor served as a nurse practitioner for Bethesda Hospital located in Huntington Beach, Florida, and still has her license to practice today. Whereas Dorothy Taylor sent her daughter, Sarah Stives, to Palm Beach County School with me, where her classmates were other residents and commissioners of Ocean Ridge. And whereas Dorothy Taylor continues to be proud to have fought to develop her property, to be able to see the blossoming of this beautiful community that has kept its charm throughout the years. Now, therefore, I, Susan Hurlbert, Mayor of the town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby congratulate Dorothy Taylor on her 100th birthday on December 6, 2022.
Wait, there's more.
There's more.
All right, we've got a twofer tonight. Charles and Kathleen, stand up, face the audience. Proclamation number 2. whereas Charles Lewis Lay Jr. and his twin sister Sally were born on December 2nd, 1927 in Richmond, Virginia. And whereas Charles Lay is a graduate of St. Paul's School in Baltimore and served in the Army overseas in the Pacific at the end of World War II. And whereas Charles Lay, after receiving his discharge from the Army, attended Kenyon College in Ohio. In 1952, he graduated from Cornell University. And whereas Charles Lay had a successful career in venture capital, and one of many accomplishments include bringing Federal Express from a fledgling company through the venture capital process to its first public offering. And whereas Charles Lay retired in the late 1990s and enjoyed his early years of retirement on the Eastern Shore before deciding to come to Florida. And whereas Charles Lay is an avid golfer and a competitive sailor, he sailed an NY-36 named Bingo. And whereas Charles Lay with his wife Kathleen purchased their house located at 20 Sable Island Drive, Ocean Ridge in August 2008. They have been full-time residents of Florida since 2009. And whereas Charles Lay quickly got involved in the community, joined the Country Club of Florida, the Village of Golf, the Country Club of Florida, the Ocean Club of Florida, and the Little Club. And whereas Charles Lay has retired from sailing, plays very little golf, but still enjoys reading and staying abreast of town business. He lives across the street, he has no choice. Now, therefore, I, Christina Hassett, Vice Mayor of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby congratulate Charles Lay Jr. on his 95th birthday on December 2nd. In witness hereof, I have unto set my hand and caused the seal of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida to be affixed on this 5th day of December 2022.
Oh my goodness. All right, Town Clerk Avery, would you please read the announcements?
The meeting scheduled for the next month is as follows. The regular Town Commission meeting on Monday, January 9th at 6 p.m. Planning and Zoning Commission meeting Monday, December 19th at 8 a.m. The joint workshop meeting of the Town Commission and Planning and Zoning Commission will be on Wednesday, January 11th at a time to be determined. All meetings are held in the Commission chambers at Town Hall. Please join us on Monday, January 9th at 5 p.m. in the Commission chambers for a presentation by our building official. The topic is yet to be determined. Town Hall will be closed Monday, December 26th to observe the Christmas holiday and Monday, January 2nd to observe the New Year's holiday. Residents who wish to sign up to receive important town notifications and news to the Civic Ready should sign up on the town's website or call Town Hall for assistance.
Thank you. We'll now have public comment, but before we start, I want to give a reminder of our protocol. This is public comment. There's not a dialogue back and forth. If you have questions looking for answers, you're welcome to contact absolutely any person on this dais one-on-one, and we'll be happy to work with you, as well as our town staff who's there Monday through Friday to help give direction and solutions. Therefore, public comment. Mary Ann?
Thank you. Commissioners, my name is Mary Ann Cody. I reside at 5801 North Ocean Boulevard here in Ocean Ridge. And I'm here on behalf of the Ocean Ridge Garden Club. I'm a past president of the club, and the new president, Mickey Farley Austin, who couldn't be in attendance, asked me to read this letter. So if you will oblige me. At the November 7th Town Commission meeting, Mr. Phil Bessler submitted a point of view on utilization of Town Hall by two clubs, including the Ocean Ridge Garden Club, which included some things that were not true, and we feel the need to correct the record. First, who we are. We are the Ocean Ridge Garden Club. We are a 56-year-old 501c3 institution, and historically, the only service club in Ocean Ridge. We have 66 members, 10 new members in the last year alone. Our wide-ranging mission is to educate members and our community in the fields of environmental awareness, conservation of natural resources, and civic beautification. We meet monthly during the season in members' homes or town hall for business and committee meetings. We've had a very long partnership with the town of Ocean Ridge. Historically, we worked together to preserve the hammock from development and saved and actively maintained one of the town dune entrances in Old Ocean Boulevard. We planted the gardens at town entrances. Last year, we created a wild orchid garden at Town Hall with the guidance and instruction of FAU. We provide the holiday decorations and contribute baked goods for Light the Light celebration, assist with the Memorial Day and Veterans Day celebrations. We secured and funded the Blue Star Marker, coordinated the Save the Seas, it's a plastics pollution awareness seminar, and the Turtle Talk community events. We have 2 more talks planned for this spring, dune preservation and butterflies in the garden. As a 501c3 organization, we are proud of our giving history to higher education candidates, most recently at FAU, and to young children for a summer experience in Camp Waukewa. Last year alone, we gave $8,500 to these causes. Most importantly, we all give of our time to get to know each other and our neighbors, learn and grow, plant a dune together, raise money to give back, arrange flowers, and improve our gardening skills. And how we love where we call our home, the town of Ocean Ridge. So that is who we are. Now to the issue at hand. At the November 7th Town Commission meeting, Mr. Bessler presented some things that were not true, and we feel the need to correct the record. Number 1, we did not request or want to use the town hall as our clubhouse for free.
Mary Ann, I'm just going to remind you, we're at 3, so.
I'll wrap it up. Or require the town's 1,900 tax-paying residents to pay for the clubhouse facility. We follow the town guidelines when we rent the room for our meetings and events. We put down our deposit, pay all the costs requested by the town, pay for the cleanup, or pay town employees for services. We assume that the town understands the full costing of renting the space, and that is reflected in their guidelines. We buy insurance for every occasion that we may serve a light dinner and wine, as required by the town. Thank you for your time today, and I request that this letter be submitted in the record.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Terry.
I'm not gonna be like.
You're not gonna be the one?
No.
You're trying to beat the old guy up there? That's easy, you know?
I know. Good evening. First of all, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a very healthy New Year. I understand my questions can't be answered today, but nevertheless, I would like to put them out there, and if somebody can get back to me, I would appreciate it. As we know, we've had this storm, and our dunes have gone away. I wanted to know if anyone was contacting the Army Corps of Engineers, if anyone has contacted FEMA. Is there any kind of program available to us to get more sand? And just saying, everyone kept saying the Scabola was terrible. The only thing, and I'm sure all of you must have walked up and down the dunes, the only thing that kept them up is that damn Scabola. So, go figure. Thank you very much. Oh, I just want to say one more thing real quick. In your instructions on how we are supposed to speak, I don't believe we're supposed to speak to a person individually. So I think it was not right that somebody's name came up here just 2 seconds ago that shouldn't have been. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cobb. Mr. Brown?
Terry Brown, Harvard Drive South. Full disclosure, I'm a member of the Garden Club, the oldest or the longest serving male member. And I support their student scholarship program very vigorously. And it's a good group of people, and I support the waiver of the fee, if that means anything to anyone. But I'm sorry that I missed the Light the Lights. I know you all had a good time, and there were a lot of people looking for me, wondering where I was, but we couldn't make it. But I do believe in Santa Claus. Santa Claus gave the town of Ocean Ridge an early Christmas present by completing the beach deck
at Porter Street. I tried to be the first one there when it was finished, but Steve Coles ran in front of me. I always try to beat out the old guy, but really they did a fantastic job. And I was telling Steve that Lucy and I helped a guy in a wheelchair use that ramp up there so he could have that spiritual experience of sitting there and looking at the ocean and breathing that air. So you really did a great job, and we really appreciate it. There is a couple things that I think that you ought to consider. One is you need a garbage can down at the steps on the beach. I know that's stopped because of personnel problems, but you have a landscaper that's been picking up trash at the other locations. And people pick up off the beach. They bring their own bags and dump stuff, but there's no place there to dump it. So it would be really, really a beneficial thing. And by the way, the county has a guy that empties at the Hammock Park and down at Dog Beach. There's garbage cans there. There's 2 big ones at Dog Beach. And he's an employee of the county. And so you could make some kind of arrangement like that, have them do it if you don't have enough staff to do it. But it's something that needs to be done. And the other thing, finally, I have another whole minute. You need to seriously consider the ordinance to prohibit bicycles on the ramp. Because these fellows and women are real beefed up and they wear sweatsuits and cleats. And they go up there and this is a valuable asset and you want to protect it. So you need to have an ordinance that prohibits that. I've sent pictures to the chief when there was 10 or 15 bicycles up there and they're all having a great time. But you know, it's dangerous and it's a liability issue, I think, for the town. So I appreciate if someone would look at it again. I know you talked about it, but it never went anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Ladies and gentlemen of the commission, Madam Mayor, Bill Scarlett, B with a B, not Phil, that was the last time I spoke. Anyway, I'm here to talk briefly just about dogs on the beach. And I'm only going to talk about 2 things that recently affected friends of mine. One's an older lady, and she runs on the beach every morning at like 4 o'clock in the morning. She was jumped by a dog and scratched, and she was very, very upset about it. And she shared some thoughts with me. She didn't want to come and speak in front of you folks because she was intimidated. And I said, well, I'll be your voice. And then another friend of mine, a younger woman, was bit by a dog within the last 3 weeks. And so, you know, I understand that there are some dogs that are qualified as service dogs. I know a fair amount about that because I worked with a family where the little boy had a service dog that stayed right by his side. No one was to pet it. He didn't run around the beach chasing tennis balls. He stayed with that boy, and he would smell when that boy was going to have a seizure, and he would curl up around the boy so he couldn't hit his head. Now that's a service dog. If there's people that are bringing companion dogs or pets on the beach and misrepresenting it to our law enforcement as a service dog, I just say shame on them. And to people that say, I'm new to Ocean Ridge, I didn't know. I mean, at every beachhead, there's a sign that says no dogs on the beach. So I find that a little hard to believe that people don't know. And so it seems to be getting worse. I think it's getting more bold. The more people see people with dogs, not on leashes, just running, the more people get emboldened. And frankly, when I hear that, you know, one of our town officers tries to speak to them and they say, don't you have something better to do with your time? That's disgraceful. And I learned better manners than that growing up. So I would just ask you to please talk about that, think about that. How can we do it in a sane and safe way for everybody? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Brown.
Lucy Brown, Harbor Drive South. I just want to add to this gentleman's speech that when we see people coming on their carts with their big dogs merrily skipping past the sign that says no dogs on beach, those people are learning that they don't have to pay attention to all those other things on the sign, like no alcohol and glass containers. They are just seeing, everybody is seeing people ignoring the rules. Change the rules or enforce them.
Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms. Archibald?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Cynthia Archibald. I live at 5552 North Ocean Boulevard. I am here tonight to thank Ocean Ridge Police for responding to my 911 calls and saving the life of my husband of 22 years, Bill Fusselman, twice in the last 2 months. I'll get to more of that in a minute. But the very first time first responders came to my house was 6 years ago when Bill had a stroke and was paralyzed on one side. It was so serious, but thanks to partly to the speedy response of Ocean Ridge, my husband was treated promptly at JFK and was walking by the end of the day. And after a few weeks, he was running again and working out of the gym and traveling the world and hiking everywhere. Bill might not have had those 6 years of great health and vitality if not for Ocean Ridge's first responders. The Ocean Ridge Police Department says the average response time to a call is less than 3 minutes. I can attest to that. Every single time I had to call 911, Ocean Ridge officers were in my house before I could even turn around. But more than the consistent speed of getting where they are needed, Ocean Ridge Police are highly trained in emergency medical services. I couldn't believe the medical proficiency I saw in October when my husband collapsed due to chemotherapy. When Police Chief Richard Jones attended my husband, I really could not believe the compassion and the competence and the ease and the hands-on attention that he paid, and the compassion of all the officers, including Mac McAllister and Officer Deborah Boyle. They are much more than police. They are first responders, they are multi-talented, they are multitasking, and they comfort people in these traumatic situations. Thank you so much for what you did to save my husband that day on October 21st, and thank you for giving me your business cards, encouraging me to call you for anything or if I just needed to talk. But even more recently, at night, during the height of Hurricane Nicole, I had to call 911 again because my husband once again collapsed. But this time, parts of Ocean Ridge were under 3 feet of water. Once again, the first responders came, and this time with a Boynton Fire and Rescue high water truck. And with the torrential rain and the wind howling, they took my husband to Bethesda East in a flash. I cannot overstate that hands-on professionalism of the Ocean Ridge Police and what it has meant to me and my husband in these traumatic situations. Sadly, my husband died in the ICU in Bethesda on November 17th. But it is truly consoling to know that Ocean Ridge Police did everything possible to help me save his life, and that is precious to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Victor Martel, 46 Harbor Drive South. First of all, number one, I have multiple topics since I've been hearing a lot of things going on tonight. As far as I'm concerned, the garden club is out of order. As far as mentioning personally Phil Bessler's name, we're told here not to mention people's names, and that's inappropriate, and I don't appreciate that, number one. Number two, I completely 100% agree with Terry Brown and Lucy Brown as far as our Porter Beach crossover. It's 100% beautiful. You guys have spent tens of thousands of dollars repairing that or renovating that. And I've not only been told that bicycles are on there, but people that live on the ocean, facing the ocean, have seen motorcycles go up there, and just inappropriate. And I'm asking you with a whole heart to just create an ordinance. I have personally gone up to people, as you know, I have no filter, and said, did you see the sign? And here's what they said to me. Yes, I've seen the sign. It's not an ordinance, so we're not going to obey it. 2 or 3 times that's been the case. Even though the sign was a good attempt, these cyclists know better than that, and they just know it's not enforceable. So that's something that I would ask you to do more than that of. Thirdly, okay, I've got plenty of time. Thirdly, I in the last 24 hours, and this is just something that came up, within 24 hours, Cindy and myself have either been on the golf cart and she's been running, and have either had to stop abruptly, even though, yes, Martin, I stop at every stop sign, and see motorcycles run right through the stop signs, and Cindy was almost run over by somebody not stopping at the stop signs. We need to do something to enforce these cyclists to stop at the stop signs, or don't allow them to ride on Old Ocean. Cyclists are at the mercy of traffic, like everybody else is that's in a golf cart or a car. And if we don't do something out that, they don't treat that like a road. They treat that like a walkway or a bicycle path. And it's not, all you have to do one time, Christy, is to have somebody get hit, and you're gonna have a litigation problem. That's a problem. And it's been happening for years and years, and because we don't have a solution, we just ignore it. That's not right. Lastly, I'm gonna go this real quick. You guys aren't having the golf cart thing this year. I literally asked personally, through my own expense, to have 6 or 7 golf carts that we can put lights on, drive up and down the roads, have music, throw some candy canes out. And I was told that I'm not allowed to do that because it's a parade. That's BS. And here's the reason it's not a parade, because I'm not inhibiting or damaging any traffic. We're going the speed limit. They're all street legal golf carts, and I don't think that's right. All we're trying to do is spread some Christmas cheer, and you're not allowing us to do that. That's not right.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is AJ Emanuel. I live at 33 Sable Island Drive. I'm here to provide a brief closeout on the Sable Island Safety and Beautification Initiative. As you may recall, this project in our committee emerged from a neighborhood gathering hosted by Jim and Susan Wiggy in 2019. There had been a rash of car break-ins in town in our Sable Island and on Sable Island, and our residents were concerned about neighborhood safety. Next slide. In January of 2020, our committee submitted a proposal requesting your support and resources. Our objective was to improve safety, enhance beautification, and build community engagement. I'm here to report that our mission has been accomplished and our project is complete. The next few slides show pictures and some of the results of our project. This is the east side of the Sable Island Bridge, and you can see pictures of before and after. Next slide. This is the west side of the bridge. Before, you could see we had poor vegetation, no irrigation or lighting, and on the right side, we have irrigation now and lighting. Next slide. This is the bridge in east and west sides at night. And I wanted to comment that residents painted the bridge, guardrails, and actually funded in excess of 50% of the project, including the license plate recognition program. Next slide. These are the rear and front triangles, which are lit up at night and clearly have enhanced the safety in the rear, the back end of the island, and certainly as you enter it. We've installed lighting, planting, a dog bowl, sod, and bench. And we've also installed lighting, and we trimmed the hedges in the front island. So we would like to thank the town staff. This has clearly been a collaborative effort, and there's been a huge amount of work and support. We'd like to thank Mayor Hurlbert, Vice Mayor DeHaas, and the commissioners for your support and your resources of this community initiative. It's clearly resulted in a safer and more beautiful neighborhood in Ocean Ridge. Lastly, just some acknowledgements. These are some of the resources. I think I've captured most of the resources that have had a hand or played a role in this critical initiative for us on Sable Island. I'd like to close by thanking the Sable Island residents as well for their generosity and support. And we would like to wish all of you a safe and happy holiday.
Betty Begum, 1 East Ocean Avenue. I'm gonna go back to my old stamping ground. What you need to do is set fines. The federal government has a $500 fine for invasion of the dunes. We don't have any fine and we cannot enforce the federal government's. Look, number two, I almost got run over by a bicyclist who was going Palm Beach to Boca and back. I didn't realize that they're on timetables, trying to break records. He was riding on the sidewalk past the stoplights down there. And back some 60, 70 years ago, Gene Rosenberg stood out there at that stoplight and stopped a whole batch of bicyclists trying to get through a stoplight. They didn't do it again for a while. He stood there until the sheriff came, fined them all $100. That cures the problem. And the same thing on the beach. And I think the people that live on the beach deserve to be protected from people that are invading their property. Trespassing should be also have a fine. So I suggest that the commission get together and set up a map of fines that the chief can collect, and then we can get another couple of policemen and they'll get them.
Thank you, Ms. Bingham.
Hi, my name is Debbie Cook. I live at 28 Tropical Drive. I am here that I would like for you guys to look into the legality of the signs on the beach and the enforcement of the police coming asking people to leave. I was looking over the notes of your regular town commission meetings on June the 7th, 2021. And you guys talked about the signs and the legality of them. And the lawyer even said, she stated that it's an ongoing issue that will generate a huge legal expense. And Mayor DeHassett stated she would not like to pursue this item at this time unless it becomes an actual issue. I find it an issue. When I go to the beach and I'm sitting on the beach and I see the police call to have a man last Sunday removed from the beach because he was in the water with his service dog. They came, they found out it was a service dog. The police officer left. A few minutes later, he comes back and he escorts him off the beach. I don't even believe these signs are legal. Originally, Turtle Beach was called Sandcastle of Ocean Ridge. I searched and found in its deed, Exhibit B, permitted encumbrances. Number 6, the rights of any of the public to use as a public beach or recreation area any part of the land lying between the body of water abutting the property and the natural line of vegetation, bluff, extreme high water line, or other apparent boundary line separating the publicly used area from the upgraded private area. I have the Palm Beach County, Florida mean high water line map from 2018. The Turtle Beach property goes to the dunes. That's where it's showing where the property line went. 2021, the tax map again showed it went to the dunes. I don't like my taxpayers' dollars going to, this is Turtle Beach community, which is they're creating a compound, I believe, setting their boundaries and using my tax dollars to monitor their property. If the signs aren't legal, and again, you guys even discussed openly if it was legal or not, and it wasn't going to be sued until it was an issue. It's an issue now. In 2014, there was a young girl, I'll finish up real quick, Kimberly McCuskey, who was fined $50 for having a service dog on the beach. She refused to pay the fine. It went up to $200. The town took her to court and spent thousands of dollars. I do not want my tax dollars going for a legal issue or to the police department. There are 6 signs on the beach right now, and I think you're really only permitted One side, I don't know. I'd like this looked into, and I'd like the signs removed. Thank you.
Carol Bessler, 5906 Old Ocean. The remarks I'm making this evening are Phil's remarks. He's not here, he's out of town, and he asked me to present this. The commission back in 2019 directed the town manager to increase the interest income. The ideas that the town manager, with the input of the commission, were to consolidate the cash from 3 banks to 1, pick the bank based on their financial strength and their proposal, develop a cash management model utilizing the following considerations: large amount of cash not getting maximum interest, large influx of cash beginning of the year from real estate taxes, expenses are mostly similar each month, point and fire and EMS services are paid twice a year around $700K per payment, and to ladder the CDs if it makes sense. The results of Tracy's hard work resulted in the following. Interest pre the change in FY 2018 was around $15,000. Interest after the change, FY 2019, was about $38,000. Interest after the change in FY 2020 was around $90,000. Interest after the change in 21 went down to $25,000. Interest after the change in 22 went to $20,000. As you can see by the numbers, the changes may dramatically increase the interest income. However, in 2021, the interest rates were decreased dramatically by the government, and that affected the banks. This affected 21 and 22 when the interest income was only $24,000 and $20,000 respectively. However, I noticed that in FY 23, you only had budgeted $25,000. Interest rates have come back up. So my calculation, and I would expect this number to approach between 75 grand and 100 grand. The reason I'm bringing this up now, that Tracy is no longer here, is did she pass her books onto the new acting town manager? Or is it the bank that was chosen back in 2019 not treating us, the town, as a preferred customer that we are, and that the reason why the accounts were consolidated to them? If the second reason is accurate, you may want to bring the bank in and have a talk with them. If there is no one now looking at cash management, they need to look at it sooner rather than later. Many people here have worked with my husband, Phil Bessler, and know that he doesn't say or present things he can't back up. So to that end, I'm presenting his remarks with his worksheets on the town budget to the clerk for your information, as well as any resident in town who would like a copy. Thank you.
Mr. Hutchins?
Hi, Dave Hutchins, 33 Harbor Drive North. I'll be pretty brief here. It has to do with the look of our town and the beautification that we hope to see all the time. I take my walks, I see plenty of roofs that are filthy, and I know that, or I believe that the town has the ability to find people whose roofs look like that. When I had an old roof, I was cited once or twice and I put a new roof on. The other item is the condition of certain lawns. They look terrible. The two things that people notice most when they're driving by a home is crummy roof and a crummy lawn. So I hope that we could encourage people to take care of their lawns. And if necessary, we can encourage them to take care of their roofs. So just my thoughts. Thank you.
Hi. My name is James Conley. I live at 12 Percy Drive in Ocean Ridge. And I'm here just briefly to, as the woman before me, speak about the private property signs, which over the years, my wife and I have been living in 12 Percy Drive for the last 13 years. And the private property signs have increased dramatically on the beach. Everybody's aware of private property. I don't need to be reminded of it continuously. And I think they should be removed, especially the signs on Turtle Beach. Some of those signs are below the high water mark, the medium high water mark. One sign in particular has been washed away 4 or 5 times over the years because of the storms. Those signs could pose a danger to anybody who's swimming in the ocean. And one sign also in particular indicates or communicates private property going east to west, right to the ocean, to the dune. And it really communicates to everyone that you can't cross the line going south into Turtle Beach. And I think it needs to be addressed. I did write a letter a couple of years ago and it was unresolved. I know others have addressed it and I would like to have it addressed and one day have those signs removed. I think they're unnecessary. And they're unsightly and they're unneighborly. It creates a kind of aggressive, hostile environment on the beach when people like to go down to the beach and chill. And that's what I like to do. And I don't want to see these signs. So, thank you.
Good evening, Lisa Dakota, 4 Hudson Avenue. I'd just like to add on to Cynthia's speech before, but my husband unfortunately passed away back in April. And he was a huge advocate here in Ocean Ridge, been here many years, as I have too. But I just want to give huge accolades to the staff, to the police, to the chief. The response was just unbelievable that I received. Unfortunately, my husband did not survive, but the response was, it felt like it was within seconds of, and I hadn't come up and said anything before because I just haven't been in town every time there's been a commission meeting, so I wanted to publicly come up and say, it just meant the world to me, between the dispatch girl that I spoke to telling me to hang up, call 911, and Jimmy was there with it. It literally felt like seconds, and Chief was up in Lake Worth at the time, heard the call come in, and he was there within minutes. I guess EMTs followed suit, took him off to JFK. Just a fabulous. I just love living in this town, knowing that something like that was taken care of so admirably, and just so you just treated us like we were family. You know, that's how I felt. I did not feel like I was a resident living in Ocean Ridge. I felt like it was family, was taking care of family. So I want to say thank you.
Sorry, this is going on so long. My name is Joanne Hennigan, live at 91 Island Drive South. I've come to you tonight as a concerned resident and former chair of the last Charter Review Committee we had in 2018. At the October 1st, 2018 Town Commission meeting, I presented 5 ordinances that were proposed to go before our residents as a referendum to the 2019 election. These 5 ordinances went through the rigor of committee review, approval from the commission through 2 readings, and voting. 4 of those 5 passed. Both readings went before our residents as a referendum, and all 4 passed. The 5th proposed ordinance that the commission did not pass was entitled Supermajority Voting Procedure, in which it required 4, not 3, affirmative votes that were required by the commission to approve any ordinance or resolution that increases the maximum allowable dwelling unit density, maximum building height, or floor area ratio. In light of that recent sale and future redevelopment of an oceanfront parcel zoned high density multifamily property, time is now of the essence. I'm just recommending this commission go on the record and reconsider this charter amendment as a referendum to allow our informed residents to voice their direction at the next available election. This would not mean that you guys approve or disapprove this as an ordinance, only that you support allowing our informed responsible residents the right to vote on it through a referendum at the next eligible election cycle. For the exact wording of this ordinance, it was ordinance number 643 in 2018. So I am requesting that you just reconsider this ordinance at your next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wayne Cook, 28 Tropical Drive, Debbie's husband. We've owned there for several years. We also own a condo at 5500 Old Ocean Boulevard. We've had that about 14 years or so. And I too agree that the signs on the beach must go. And I just want to read a ruling from a judge, Judge Atkins, many years ago, between the city of Daytona Beach and Tony Rama. And it says, we recognize the priority of protecting the public interest in and the right of utilization to the beaches and the oceans of the state of Florida. No part of Florida is more exclusively hers, nor more properly utilized for her people than the beaches, and the right of the public to access and enjoyment of Florida's ocean and beaches have long been recognized by this court. The beaches of Florida are of such a character as to the use and potential development as to require separate consideration from other lands with respect to the elements and consequences of title. The sandy portion of the beaches are of no use for farming, grazing, timber production, or residency. The traditional uses of land has served as a thoroughfare and haven for fishermen and bathers, as well as a place of recreation for the public. The interest and rights of the public to the full use of the beaches should be protected. Two states, Oregon and Hawaii, have used the customary rights doctrine to afford the rights in beach property. If the recreational use of the sandy area adjacent to the mean high tide has been ancient, reasonable, without interruption, and free from dispute, such use, as a matter of custom, shall not be interfered with by the owner. However, the owner may make use of his property, which is consistent with such public use and not calculated to interfere with the exercise of the right of the public to enjoy the dry sand area as a recreational adjunct of the wet sand or foreshore area. This customary right, use of the dry sand area of the beaches by the public, does not create any interest in the land itself. Although this right of use cannot be revoked by the landowner, it is subject to appropriate governmental regulation and may be abandoned by the public. The general public may continue to use the dry sand area for their usual recreational activities, not because the public has any interest in the land itself, but because of a right gained through custom to use this particular area of the beach as they have without dispute and without interruption for many years.
Sir,
Yes.
could you wrap it up, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Just wanted to make my point. The beaches are for all, not for a select few.
Hi, Ernest George McNally. I live at 710 Northeast 7th Street, condo 407, Boynton Beach. It's called Harbor Hall Inlet Club 1. If you go outside and you throw 3 baseballs pretty hard across the intercoastal, you'll hit my penthouse unit 407. I have windows on all sides, so I can almost see the beach from my place. The reason I say that is when we bought here in 11 of 2020, we immediately joined the beach club, the oceanfront, because, I mean, it's a Boynton Beach owned property within Ocean Ridge. We will understand the implications of that and how it all happened. We don't need a history lesson. But in addition to that, for some reason along the way, the Ocean Ridge Police were given the law enforcement assignment to the property, even though it's a Boynton Beach property, and even though the laws posted there are Florida laws, they're county laws, state laws, and Boynton Beach ordinances, rules, and laws. So it's interesting that Ocean Ridge Police are put in an environment where it's Boynton Beach, and Boynton Beach has all their ordinance and laws and Florida laws posted, but they're not being enforced. And when you talk to people, they say, well, you know, the Ocean Ridge Police say that if you have a problem with law enforcement or whatever, or somebody breaking the law, call the Boynton Beach Police because they're responsible. So I said, that doesn't sound right. So I called dispatch here and she says, oh yeah. If somebody's breaking the law over there, it's the Boynton Beach Police Department. I said, that doesn't sound right. She said, you know, Mr. McNally, I think I know a little more than you. I've taken a few courses. The Boynton Beach Police enforce the law there. So I left it at that. So why am I here? I'm also a credentialed press person. I'm a semi-retired from St. Peter's, 50-odd years teaching graduate education. I've educated most senators' children in New Jersey, getting their doctorate in education. And I've also been an active press person all over the world, and I still am. And when I go here every day, I survive New Jersey throat cancer, so they sit down in Florida, cover up, don't get too much sun, and breathe the ocean air every day. And that's what I do. But when I'm there, there's a lot of crime I see. And I'm noticing that the more I see and the more I try and report it, the more I don't know what, did I say something funny?
I didn't say anything.
Oh no, I just saw you looking at somebody smiling. I wonder if I said something funny. So I think, oh, that's my time, right?
Well, you can have another few seconds there if you want to
Thank you,
wrap
I
it up.
appreciate it. So what I would like to volunteer and do is either with the mayor or if you make some kind of group where I can do some presentations of some documentation that I have about what goes on there and some very, very serious problems involving children there after hours, a lot of horrible, serious stuff. And I don't want to get paid. Again, I'm a certified press person. You can check my credentials. I go into all the federal trials all over the country. So I would like to try and help get that place to be law and order, okay? And you'll consider that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do we have anybody else? Oh, all right. Is everybody in the public here finished with their public comment? And then we can go to the town clerk who has some by email, correct?
This is from Earl Jones. Should the above subject be discussed at tonight's meeting, which is no trespassing signs on the beach? Please include the following comments. In the U.S., beaches are public up to the mean high water line. I have no problem with the dune itself being declared private property. One development in the south end of the town has placed multiple signs declaring the beach as private, which it is not. What makes this really ugly is the fact that in the 50s and 60s, the same property was the Black Beach for Boynton and Delray, and was the only beach that a black person could go to the beach. There were even ropes that ran from the dune into the ocean to mark the limitation. These signs must be taken down.
Is that our only one? All right then, public comment is now closed. So we will move on to approval of consent agenda. Agenda items 1 through 8, approval. All right, Town Clerk Avery, would you please read the consent agenda into the record?
Adoption of the minutes of September 9th, 2022, regular town commission meeting. Adoption of the minutes of September 29th, 2022, special town commission meeting. Set regular town commission meeting dates for 2023. Set dates for town holidays to be observed in 2023. Approve the second amendment to interlocal agreement for law enforcement services for the town of Briny Breezes. Approval of final fleet vehicle financing for town fleet vehicles in the annual rate of $55,691.18 as established with final calculations based upon current interest rates. Approval of budgeted funds for financial management and personnel management software. Approval of budgeted funds for a checkmate valve and installation in the amount of $10,246 from the capital projects fund.
All right, I will entertain a motion on approving the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to the regular agenda items. Agenda item number 9, update on town manager, finance director search. We have, I think I saw Mr. Basinger come in. Please come up, introduce yourself.
Excuse me, Nan Hilbert, can you pull your microphone down?
I'm
please, so
sorry.
we
Can you hear me, Lisa? Okay.
I would be happy to come up.
Please.
Hopefully I'll have some applause too when I'm done.
I know, right?
Set the timer. Absolutely. My name's Colin Benziger. I'm the owner and principal of Colin Benziger and Associates. We're at 2055 South Atlantic Avenue, 504 Daytona Beach Shores. Yes, we were hit in the storm. It was exciting, shall we say. I'm here tonight just basically to take whatever questions you have. I'd be happy to go over the process quickly. We can talk about dates and such if you like. It's really your call on how you'd like to proceed at this point.
Probably a nice thing would be to bring everybody up to date because we have a pretty full house here and this would elucidate everybody.
Well, we have started by interviewing all of the commissioners and a few of the staff. We started roughly in the middle of November. We have produced a draft of the recruitment profile. That's a document that we use to distribute to potential candidates and others who might be interested. Describes the town in pretty good detail. I think you all have seen it. But the point is that we want to give the candidates all the information that they need in order to make an informed decision after reading the document about whether or not this is a job they might be interested in. I don't want to give them just a little bit of information and they, oh, no, I'll look at this later, and then they might never get back to it. It's all set up in sections so that if candidates aren't interested in reading about the history of Ocean Ridge or the demographics or whatever, they can just skip those sections. So we've done that. You have the draft. I've gotten some comments, and I'm sure I'm going to get some more, and that's fine. Our goal is to actually post the recruitment profile at the end of the week, on December 12th, so a week from today. That will go out to the public. I shouldn't say the public. Well, it will go to the public, of course it will. But it'll also go to some targeted advertising sites. It will be posted on our website. We will email it to about, it's about 13,700 people on our email list that are interested in public sector jobs. And we have allowed about 3 weeks for people to respond. The closing date is January 4th. That's less than ideal because we have the Christmas and New Year's holiday in the middle. But our goal is to get people thinking about it and to hopefully respond quickly. If we look at it on January 4th, and we don't see that we have enough great candidates, if we think it would be beneficial to extend the deadline, we will. Now, when we do this, we don't move the updates out. We just kind of add a week or two to the closing date, let people respond, and then if we do some pretty thorough background checks, so we just kind of scrunch those background checks down. We have noticed lately, well, the last couple of years, oddly enough, that the second time a recruitment goes out, sometimes we get better candidates than the first time. I have no idea why. It's kind of like, why the heck didn't you apply the first time? But it is what it is. Once we have gotten the applications in, I'll I'll talk to each of first of all, I'll screen the candidates. I'll pick out the top 8 or 10 candidates, 12, whatever I have, and I'll talk to them. I'll call them up. Resume is simply a piece of paper. It might mean a lot, or it might not mean anything. Professional resume writers can do a good job with not very much. So I'll call them up and I'll see if it really does support considering it further. Once they've gotten past me, then I'll turn them over to the staff. And we'll put them through some pretty significant background checks. We check their criminal history, their civil records, their driving record, credit, bankruptcy. Now, the law's a little touchy on credit and bankruptcy, but this is a position of financial merit. And so we will, it's fair to actually do check those things. Our feeling is that if they can't manage their own money, you probably don't want them managing yours. We'll verify education. We will check the employment for the last 15 years. And then we'll check references. Now we ask each candidate for about 20 names. I don't want just their 5 best friends. We tell them who we want to talk to. It'll be their current commission or most recent commission. Sometimes people have left a job. It'll be the city attorney, the external auditor, some subordinates, peers, some community activists, the local press. Now that can be a little touchy because it can kind of hurt the confidentiality, and some candidates want to remain confidential, which is really hard to do in Florida because it's contrary to the law. But we can let people know that if they want to be confidential, it doesn't really exist in Florida. However, we don't think there's going to be a lot of press coverage of this search, so they might be able to kind of skate through without it becoming a big issue in their current town. We will look at, let's see, who else? HR director, there's a few others. When you put it all together, it boils down to about 20 names. We try to reach 8 to 12 of those people. We know we're not going to reach everybody. Some people just won't call us back. Some people will be on a cruise. They're just not available. But we find that if we can talk to 8 to 12 people, we have a pretty good idea who that candidate is. Let's see, the next thing we do is we do internet searches. And we try to find the local newspaper that covers the town. Now, the news media is being decimated, so it's a little harder, but we can usually find somebody that has articles on the town manager or a particular candidate, and we'll read about it. Sometimes you find some unpleasant things, and if that's the case, we'll ask for explanation. Sometimes the newspapers will ask. If there's unpleasant things, we want to know what the explanation is, and we may well not ever present that candidate just because we don't have confidence in their judgment or their abilities. Once we're done with that, the last thing we check is social media. It's rare, but once in a while, somebody is following the wrong people. Now that's a funny way to put it, I shouldn't put it. But I have seen people that are following, let's see, what's a good example?
Careful now. Yeah, I know, I was thinking.
Cindy Lingerie or something, and it kind of makes the town staff a little
nervous,
queasy, nervous about the candidate. So we try to, we'll look at them and see, and we're not going to throw somebody out because they follow, one president or another president or something. But if there's kind of some flaky sites in there that we don't think are really appropriate. Once we've gone through that point, we will take and by the way, according to the schedule, the deadline for applications again is January 4th. We're scheduled to present materials to you on January 27th, and we'll want to discuss these dates with interviews on February 16th and 17th. Okay, so we've done the background checks. We have the candidates write a candidate introduction, which basically is the answer to a 15, 16 questions we give them. And then we'll forward this package to you, and it includes their cover letter, their resume, and their answers to the candidate introduction, which kind of gives you an idea of, you can compare everybody because they're answering all the same questions, and you can get a sense of if they can write, or at least if they can find somebody who can write. And then you'll get the reference checks, the background checks, and the internet checks. You'll get packages on probably 6 to 8 people. And these packages will typically run 40 to 100 pages. The difference is basically how much press coverage they've gotten. And we do bold the person's name in the articles. So we don't recommend you read all those articles, but you can glance through, you can pick up their names, and if you see something interesting that you want to read the whole article, you can. We'll give you about a week to look at that. You can select finalists, and we will then proceed to the interviews. We have a pretty straightforward, simple process for selecting finalists and then selecting the manager, so that it doesn't take more than about usually 15 minutes. Now, the other thing I should mention is the actual interview process. And we recommend that, number one, you see the candidates in a social setting. So you have a feel, can they interact with your residents? Are they effective communicators? The residents, in a small town like this, they want to get a chance to at least get to know the candidates a little bit. After the reception, the residents, we can put out cards where they can write comments on the candidates, or they can call you and just give you direct feedback. The next morning, we always have the candidates meet with each of you one-on-one. The reason being that a manager, if they're going to be successful, has to have good chemistry with you. A great manager will have chemistry with each one of you, no problems. And when somebody succeeds you in office, they'll have great chemistry with the next person. So we want you to test that chemistry to see if you're comfortable with the individuals. And excited, hopefully, about several of them. Then in the afternoon, we generally have a meeting like this where you will ask questions. It's usually about half an hour of the candidates in a formal commission setting. So when you're done, you will have seen them in a social setting, one-on-one, and in a formal session. And then either that day or a few days later, we can take a vote and decide who your manager should be. That's kind of it in a nutshell, I think. If you have any questions.
I think what we'll do is we'll open to public comment, and if you sit up front, then when we talk commissioners, we can ask you questions if somebody's got something specific they'd like to know.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you coming. So I will open the floor to public comment regarding this item. Anybody have any input? Joanne?
With this kind of public comment, can we just ask Colin questions? I mean, for example,
Christy, wait a minute, let me just get some input here.
No.
That's what I'm
According to our rules, I think if you just ask the questions to the mayor, and then perhaps once we finish public comment, the questions that the commissioners want to relate to Colin, we can do it that way. But according to our rules, it's just supposed to be public comment.
sure, well, so what I guess the best way for me to phrase this is I've done a lot of reading about Colin, and I'm sorry to call you Colin, but my son's Colin, so I feel comfortable with that name. In reading everything about all this process, is that to do a better job this time than we did last time, the couple of areas when Colin was just talking about it is that we need to really be clear on what the process would be on how the commission selects the finalists and then how they select the number one person. What the definite process would be. That's really the main thing.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else, public comment on our update? All right then, public comments now closed, and I'll open the floor for commissioner discussion. Jeffrey, do you have anything specific you would like to ask or comment on?
No, it was a big nut. You said it was all in a nutshell. That nutshell. That big, a lot of information.
It was, right?
Holy cow. Finance, because it's a town manager and finance director, so that's, to me, a very large part of it. So that would be my one request.
Microphone.
Well, I thought I had greater.
Nope.
I'll get up too, so that everybody.
I asked about finance.
Yeah, I heard.
With the town manager position.
Yeah, and the profile is weak in that area. I need to enhance that a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
We'll call it a town manager or finance director, and we'll add some material too in terms of what they're expected to do and what we're looking for. But that was an oversight on my part. I apologize.
Vice Mayor?
Okay, I took the better part of yesterday afternoon, and I think I provided you 11 pages of comments on the recruitment profile. Just so you know, it wasn't because it was a poor job. It's just very hard to describe the uniqueness of our town, having never been here and visited, and knowing what is really important to the residents versus, you know, we don't have tourists. We don't have a volleyball beach that you can run down. I mean, there's just some things. Mine is less about the recruitment profile because that will flush itself out. Particularly once you add in the finance director part. Mine is more about the job description for recruitment, and you had proposed a bachelor's degree as a minimum with 3 years experience, or 5 years?
I thought it was more like
5. I think he said 5.
Okay. One of the things that we had all discussed in our last round, and actually just, you know, coincidence or not, everyone who applied in the last round actually also had an MPA. And I would like to see that as a preferred candidate would have something like that. I think it's industry standard now for anybody. So you had added in some information about coastal communities, which I thought was good. But there's also some other things that outside of emergency management I think are good. You know, experience in overseeing a police force and union negotiations is something that would be beneficial. Again, these are all pluses. They're not necessarily baseline requirements, but I think the more delineating we are in what the pluses are, the more it helps candidates really understand how to best put their best foot forward. I'd like to see someone who's got experience in managing a growing building department. That is something that is important. It's our second largest tax base here in revenue. I'd like to see someone who has demonstrated that they work with utility services and neighboring communities in negotiations. Our water contract is one of our biggest things coming up. It's a 30-year contract, and it will probably be used as a basis potentially in the future for our septic to sewer because they would be our partners in that also. And then I think for a town this size, I think direct staff supervision and experience in HR is important. I think for right or for wrong, a lot of our employees have grown into positions and been given titles that really don't suit their background. It's not part of their skill set. And it's unfair to the employee and it's unfair to the person trying to manage it. So I would really like for somebody to have that kind of HR background. That is it on the recruitment profile.
If I could just ask one question. Basically, your town manager, finance director is also your HR director, is that right?
Correct. They are the CEO and the CFO and the COO. So yes, they don't do the day in, day out HR personnel files or anything else like that, but they have to have a strong sense of collaboration of building that team. You know, we only have 32 employees. They all know each other pretty well. So some would say it's herding cats, but so that would be it on the recruitment profile. I feel probably most strongly about the MPA portion of it. On the timeline, I would like to see 4 weeks for application, and I think I had expressed that to you, just given the fact that it is the holidays, and if we could take that week that we extend, allowing a candidate to apply, and then maybe shuffle around some of the other portions of the timeline. I know that there was a large gap between proposing the final candidates and then finally interviewing them. If we are going to, as a commission, and I think this is one of the issues that needs to be addressed tonight, is if we are going to pay for candidates to travel here, I think before we had tried to give a very large timeline in between them so they could afford to get the best flight, to get the hotel, to get everything else like that. If we're going to pick up that tab, I don't think we need to be that sensitive about it. And if we've already selected them, let's get on it. Let's get it going. I'd also like to see a preferred start date as part of the profile and the recruitment profile and any of the materials going out. And that, I know that is a negotiating point when you get down to the contract negotiations. So it is not a hard and fast, but I do think any candidate needs to understand that, we've got a contract that's ending February 28th, and we would love to have somebody be able to not only overlap with that contract, but, be able to step into those shoes. We may have to go to plan B or plan C, but I think sometimes in large recruitment firms and in people that are looking at bigger city jobs, they're given a 2 to 3 month window to actually relocate and get everything done. We don't have the luxury of that. So I have more, but I'll wait to see if anybody else pops in.
Commissioner Claus?
So as far as Christine, one thing I really disagree with you on is the master's versus bachelor's. We went through this last time. If we have somebody with a BA who's been running, let's say Jupiter, for 20 years, we would be excluding them if we force them to have a degree that they don't have, whereas their experience would more than qualify them than a candidate that might have all those degrees.
So let me repeat, it was a preferred, it was a plus, it was not a
I don't want it as a
mandatory.
preferred, because that signals to the people applying that if you don't have it, you're in a second tier. So I totally disagree with that. And we already did this last time, and we decided not to include it. So that's number one. Number two, I totally agree with Christine's second major point, which is this schedule. Actually, I went through my calendar while Christine was talking. It's quite simple, I believe, and you tell me. January 4th is a Wednesday, and that's the close of applications. I would suggest we move that to Tuesday the 10th. January 8th, which is when you send your report to us on the results, is a Sunday. I suggest we move that to the 12th. So now the closing date would be the 10th, which gives us basically the month that I think we need and gets us further away from the holidays. Also, in the private sector, sometimes things happen, actually apply to the public too, happen in the beginning of the year. People lose jobs, get jobs, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we want to make sure we have enough time after the holidays to allow people to apply. So I would move the end of applications to the 10th, your report to us of the number of candidates, et cetera, to the 12th, and leave everything else the same. I don't think that compresses you too much. You've lost 4 days between January 8th and January 27th.
We can live with that.
Yeah. Now, my last thing is, on this process, it's kind of fascinating. February 17th, for the public, it says the candidates come, let's say there's 5 candidates. So we got one-on-one and full town commission interview and possible decision. So just from a mechanic standpoint, that would indicate that all 5 commissioners have to be here in separate rooms with these candidates rotating through, or something like that.
Correct, that's the way we do it usually.
And then at the end of the day, we all sit down together. Okay, that's it. I like your descriptions, I like your schedule, I like your professionalism.
There you go. Commissioner Vizlek?
Thank you for coming.
I appreciate it.
We're paying.
Fine by me. Pay to win. Your time, first of, pretty much everything that was just said was on my list too, where I had concerns or where I wanted to make a point, pointing out where our town is a little bit different than most other towns. One of the things, and I know that you know that by now, we do not have a commercial district, so there's a lot of things that a town manager deals with on an ongoing basis that has to do with the commercial district, which will not apply here. So, if you find a candidate that's more on the residential side, it would be fantastic, obviously. However, my only concern with what we have going on right now is the dates for the actual interviews versus when you are basically finishing up your report. So if my understanding is correct, you're finishing up on the 20 something of January
27th is when we're supposed to send it to you.
So on the 27th, you send us the report, and then we're idling for almost 3 weeks until we have the interviews.
Yeah, well, in a sense, but normally what we do is we send you the reports and you'll get a report, say, on 6 or 8 candidates, and then we ask you to cut that number down to like 4 or 5. So we normally give you a week with the reports and then have a meeting to, select the top candidates. Now, we could select the candidates for you based on our work, and that would speed the whole process up a little bit. We just select 5. And hopefully you'd be happy with the 5 we selected.
So, that is something that obviously we would have to all discuss here. As far as I'm concerned, we're hiring a professional. We're hiring a professional for exactly that reason, and that's why I would feel comfortable if you are actually the one that comes out and says, these are the final candidates, these are the ones that you should choose from. So I would be okay with it. The other commissioners obviously have to be okay with it too. My concern here is that I would not want to waste too much time in between. And I would be perfectly happy of sitting an entire day and reading 250 pages of different candidate applications and going through them and just, it needs to get done. We are on a deadline. Obviously, the contract with our interim town manager has an expiration date on it. And I would want to see that there is an overlap. And if we're doing this on the 17th, 18th of February, and then basically say, okay, you're it. We're going to hire you, Colin. And you're going to go, okay, but I can start tomorrow. And that is basically where the overlap already needs to start. So we're putting ourselves into a time crunch with that interview on the 17th, 18th. I would like to see that move closer to January, to when we have the packages in our hands. And as I said, I would be perfectly fine with spending a day reading through 200 and some pages with a nice bottle of scotch and go through it, make it work.
We could conceivably give you the materials on the 27th for like the candidates we recommend or that we have selected for you to interview. And then you could interview on the 30th and 31st if you wanted.
Yes.
We're hiring you as a professional. I would be perfectly fine with it. That's why we're hiring you, and that's why we're thinking.
Okay, so let me give you my comments here. I like the compression there, but we have to know if everybody would be comfortable with Mr. Basinger making that final cut. So let's, before we even go any farther, because that would count towards our crunching our time. So Jeffrey, you need to think about that, or what do you think?
No, I mean, we're paying this man for his experience. Why would we not use it?
That's why I'm asking. I just need to know.
Vice Mayor? I not only agree with narrowing it down to 4 to 5 candidates, I like your idea of then proceeding with the interviews on the 30th and the 31st.
Commissioner Cos?
The only problem I have is with the number. We don't know how many candidates you're going to get. You might get 40 and 10 of them are terrific. you think we should be looking at all 10. So I would say cap it at 10, and if it is 5 or 6, fine.
It's too many.
Well, it's 10 that we then whittle down to 10.
Well, we're asking him to
do the
whittle down,
But
that's the
he's,
question.
I know, but he's giving, if he gives
He's
us
giving us
10,
the
we
process.
can whittle to 5 instantly. And the other thing is, we're up against this timeline. Can't we solve this Feb 28? Can't we just extend you for half a month or a month? Why?
Chris?
There was an issue with our FRS retirement and temporary employment. I will ask Laura in our office to research that, but I know when we first drafted Ms. Ladner's contract, it had to have a 6-month limitation on it.
Well, can you also ask the office if we do 2 days off and then come back for 2 weeks? And does that break it? In other words, a separate piece of paper?
I'll find out what our options are. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so the time might not be such a big issue if we're utilizing your whittling process, because that would have taken time for us to do the different group. So I think that that would solve a lot of the other issues we talked about. We'll save some time in there. So everybody seems to agree about allowing you or getting preferences from you for, and you'll obviously make your decision based on how many candidates and what it all comes out to. So if we're looking at moving this forward, I think that they're all doable dates.
Okay. I'm fine with.
With the new ones we talked
But
about.
I should check my calendar.
Yeah, I guess we should make sure you're available for this.
I don't think that's a problem, but just give me half a second.
Okay,
Hey, can somebody then read the final calendar?
right, well, we'll be changing it, so.
Yeah, I'm fine then.
So what is?
So yes, would you give us for
Well,
the suggestions that we've just had?
okay, let's see. So instead of closing on the 6th, we would close on the 10th. And then you'll still get well, I'll give you the report on the 12th. Sunday's not a good day to send a report.
Probably not.
And then you'll get the candidate.
Wait a minute, can I ask you all to give some respect to the gentleman so he can,
I'm looking at the wrong schedule or something wrong.
No, you're doing pretty good.
And yeah, but I was on the wrong one. I was trying to figure out why this schedule didn't make sense. Okay, let's go back to the beginning again.
110.
So we're closing on the 10th. 10. Oops. And then we're reporting on the 12th.
And just for clarification, what will that report contain? We received 44 candidates, we'll start to interview them. I mean, it's not a very in-depth report, correct?
This is very in-depth.
It is very in-depth.
But you'll only get it for probably 5
right, for the
candidates.
whittled through.
So if you devote Saturday to it, you should be able to get through it.
That's the one on the 27th.
Correct.
Okay. So the one on the 12th is just a summary of the candidate information.
That's what I just asked.
Yeah, it's a kind of a summary of where we're at, and just so you know, I'll be calling you too. I'm not, there's things I feel comfortable putting on paper, given the Florida Public Records Act, and there's things I don't.
It's a report on our process on the 12th.
So I would, yeah, exactly. And then we would interview, let's see, we're skipping that stage. We'll interview on January 30th. That's the reception, actually. And then the actual interviews would be the 31st. And so selection if you're ready, and if you want to sleep on it, come back a day or two
So
later.
I'm missing a date. I'm missing a date. We got the quickie report on the 12th.
Correct.
Right.
So when is the providing of the 10 candidates?
27.
27, just as it is here, okay?
Not changing that.
Jan 27th, let's call it the 10 candidates. And then, what's the next day?
30th is the reception
30th reception.
31st interview.
and 31st is the interview.
And then the only thing that I guess we would have to discuss would be, what would be the preferred start date, so, it can potentially overlap.
Right.
21st of February, I would guess, if you want a week overlap.
Are we okay with the week?
It would be the 20th of February, would be Monday.
I would, just from a mechanic standpoint, so the 27th, you provide, let's call it 5.
Right.
5 people, and then we expect them to get here in 3 days. See,
No, they will know.
There's a reception on the 30th.
I understand, but they will know what the dates are. So if you're applying for a job and you
Why
know
would-
already this is gonna be interview and a reception date, this is
They'll
what we
have,
had
the-
last
they'll have
time.
the dates, right?
So why would we
we-
want to lose a candidate because they can't make it on the 30th?
Well, here's what's going to happen. We'll
Show
go
them
through the
how-
applications, we'll pick out the candidates we like. I would be, I'll pick out the top 5, and if there's another 3 or 4 or something, we'll hold them in reserve. If you don't like the candidates, or they don't, this isn't the job for them, or whatever. And then, around the 20th, I'll say, well, you're going to be one of the 5 we're going to present, so go ahead and make reservations to be here on the 30th, 31st.
I just don't think that schedule is doable. I think we once again shoot ourselves in the foot with potential candidates.
But he just said the 20th, he'll
That's
start
10
to
days.
inform those folks. So it'd
I'm
be 10
going
days
by
ahead
the
of time.
calendar that was spoken, I've written it down, so I'm giving problems later. The 5 candidates are the 27th, according to my calendar.
Right.
To us.
So, right, so they've already been told on the 20th?
Yeah.
No,
Essentially, I'm going to pick the candidates, and then we're going to polish up the paperwork.
He wants to
finish
know,
it.
when are you picking the candidates so they,
So they can schedule
The
their
20th.
lives.
Yeah,
When-
roughly
like
the
10
20th.
days?
When you're putting this out now, when you, in a
Initially.
week or in a couple of days, when you're putting out the advertisement for the job position, in that advertisement, will it say that the actual interview is gonna
Right.
be on the 30th and 31st?
Yes.
So they'll know from the very beginning that that's the date, if by chance they are selected, that that's the date to save, circle on their calendar, and if they're interested to know they'll be there.
So
And
next,
when I interview them each, I will reemphasize that date as well, hold those 2
Right.
days open. So that, if you are one of our finalists, which you'll know in about 10 days, frankly,
Right.
you can make your reservations to be here.
can we also then, and also add the preferred start date, which is where you started to go and
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
circled the wagon backwards. I would say February 20th at the latest.
Which is what I believe that's what you just suggested.
I agree.
Yeah. We have to negotiate a contract too, so we probably want to have a draft contract that we can
Prepared.
show them in advance.
Right.
So they can figure out, what they,
Yes.
so that basically, once we select the candidate, we can sit down and negotiate it.
Move forward.
Okay.
Would it not make sense to have, not unlike the interview scheduled, the preferred start date as part of the initial talk points rather than waiting for a draft candidate?
I'm sorry, could you?
So the materials are gonna include when the application closes, what the interview dates are going to be. Can we also include the preferred start date?
Yes.
In the very beginning.
In the very
Again, so everybody
We will.
knows.
Okay.
We will.
Right, no surprises.
Just
Right.
clarifying, thank you.
All right, any other additions, questions? Anybody want to add anything? Everybody good with the new approximate calendar?
So, Mr. Benjinger, can you explain to us a little bit about the reception?
Right.
I don't disagree with it, but I think it was a question that had come up before, and we had talked about it, and then we had decided not to do something like that. So if you could just kind of give us the highlight pros and cons. I mean, obviously, it's important that somebody come and see our town before they actually want to select
What we would
working
want,
here.
when we actually do the interviews and that hope that the interview 2 days, so to speak, the process on those 2 days, we basically have them come and take a tour of the town, probably with the police chief or somebody. And then later in the day, we would have them probably meet the staff for a few, for an hour or so, so that the staff gets, of course, they can throw their 2 cents too. Then in the afternoon, late afternoon, probably about 5:30, we would have a reception, could be right here. Just bring in some munchies and some sodas and let the candidates mingle with the public.
Invite the residents.
Yeah, and it's really very informal. They just mingle back and forth, and the residents can rotate from candidate to candidate. Generally speaking, the candidates don't talk to each other, but
Right.
they can, I suppose, if they want. It's nice because the public gets a chance to see the candidates. It's nice because you get to see the candidates interact with the public. And it's nice because it's an icebreaker. They'll meet you at the reception. So the next morning, when you sit down to do your one-on-one, you're gonna have about 40 minutes with each candidate. So if you've already gotten over, the niceties, so to speak, you can just dig right in.
All right.
So we recommend it, while you do it.
You recommend it. I have no problem with it. We're all good? All right.
So that was the timeline. Can we circle back to the recruitment profile? Obviously, Commissioner Cause and I agree to disagree on this. Can we get consensus from the dais as to whether or not an MPA/MBA would be a plus?
Martin, what's your input?
Like I said it last time, I personally don't see the necessity to put it out there. Obviously, the people that are choosing our candidates will, I'm sure, have a certain bias towards somebody that has a higher education than somebody else. I wouldn't necessarily put it in the ad, just not to exclude somebody. But again, I leave that up to the.
Steve, we know, right? We know what you want.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Well, of course, it'd be a plus. I mean, let's face it, that's, however, I think your question though, is you asked your question, you said, would it be a plus? Well, yes, it'd be a plus. However, is it going to be something that we should put on the process? I would say no, because to Steve's point, you can be experienced in things and just not have vastly more experience than somebody who has an education in it.
Okay.
That's all.
Right, and I believe last time, we couldn't even get everybody to agree on a BA, and then we were surprised to see everybody with their MBAs. So I believe that the balance of the experience, and at the very least, a BA is still going to bring us the candidates with the MBA, because like you said, that's what's out there right now. But the experience counts as well, so I'm fine with that. What else did I want to say?
Do we need to talk about travel reimbursement?
Did we talk about travel?
If you want to get good candidates, you better pay for them.
Is that customary, Colin?
It is,
Yes.
it is, and many candidates will say basically, if they're not interested in paying for travel, they're not interested in getting the best candidates, so I'll just skip this one.
So would you give us an approximate amount that we would look towards? You'll have 10 days to travel, which then gives you enough time to make a decent airline hotel reservation, even though it's season.
You're probably looking at, normally we would have 2 or 3 candidates from Florida, so there's airfare is not a concern, but they might charge you mileage.
Can we, right?
They probably will. Hotel, couple of nights, and it could be $400 right there, the way hotels are these days, particularly.
At that time of year.
Well, now that we know
You're
the
probably
dates, we
looking
can.
at maximum of $5,000 qualified.
Right. Well, I was going to guess we could probably do less, but we have to be willing to pay at the bottom line, because like you said, good candidates are going to need to know that you are going to support their coming in.
We've done this, when I've priced it out, it usually turns out to be about $2,500.
That's, I was thinking the 2,500 is right.
Total or per?
Total.
That's cheap.
And who does the airline reservations? Does our
They do.
staff take care of that?
No, they do.
You guys or the?
No, we don't do it either. What we do, we will ask the candidates to make their own airline reservations. We will tell them not first class, be sensible. And,
Get a private jet.
I'm in.
And, we would like to give them some guidelines on what they can spend on meals. So if you have some travel guidelines, that would be helpful. But back to your question, the reason I like the candidates to make the reservation is that if they back out at the last minute,
It's on them.
they're the ones that are sitting there holding the ticket, not the city.
Right.
I was the village manager in Wellington for a few years, actually for 1 year, and the chief administrator, long story. Anyway, I was there for 3 years, and when I interviewed, there was a candidate who was supposed to come from California. The district made the reservation, and the guy backed out. And so the district was sitting there with a $700 ticket that it couldn't use.
And we can also give some suggestions to you about places to stay, because
Oh,
there
yeah.
are Ritz versus,
Please.
Tiki.
well, there's something in between.
So
Who
why
wants them to
don't we
call?
decide right now on the per diem? $100, $150?
What's the standard?
Why don't we just do it with flat amount? It's gonna be, if he says
Well, yeah, but-
$2,500,
That's what I'm saying.
$2,500.
You can't say that.
We're saying the same thing, Jen.
We don't know where the candidates are
It'd
coming
be
from.
more realistic to go with a GSA rate if you're gonna go with a per diem.
What is a GSA rate?
The government service agency.
Right.
It's set by the federal rate, so if you're gonna do a per diem, I'd go with the South Florida per diem.
Do you know what it is?
Off the top of my head, no, but I know Colin can look
All
it
right.
up.
Yeah, we can look at, I'll make a recommendation.
Okay.
but, you know,
So don't let that hold up this process.
no, and I tend to be a little cheap because I don't spend a lot on meals besides.
I don't think you need to, yeah. It's more the airline, because even flying within Florida can be pricey. You go Tallahassee, Palm Beach, that's not
Yeah, I mean,
inexpensive.
lately too with the airlines, it seems like
Exactly.
there's capacities are limited.
And it'll be high season hotels, but we have such a plethora of places here. I'm sure we could do the $250 a room.
You know, one thing we might want to consider is have the town make reservations for 5 candidates at some place, and you won't have to pay the sales tax and such.
I think Ms. Ladner had already started that process of looking at it last time.
That's what I was gonna recommend, is if we've got an idea, we can go ahead and book a block of rooms,
All
now
right.
that we know the dates. And book just 5 rooms for Sunday through Tuesday. And then we tell the candidates, we have a block of rooms, they're set up under the town in this hotel. Just need to call and let them know that you're in this room block. That's it. That way we all know where they're staying, the town's paying for it, and there's no
Right,
question
but they
about.
still provide their credit card upon arrival for incidentals.
Right.
If we could look at the sun deck, I think that's where we had all talked about.
We had
That's
talked
where we
about
would
that.
start with if they're.
Yeah, we
got the
talked about
rooms,
that.
yes.
All right, Dee, I think you have some great information to move forward. The last thing I was going to say was basically the finance manager, as you already realized, needed to be filled out a little bit more.
Yeah, actually, that was on the draft, and I crossed it out, which was my
You're bad.
error, so I apologize, but we'll add that back.
Perfect. All right, any questions of us, or you know how to get in touch with us if you need us?
I do, you can run, but you can't hide.
I found that out.
So just for clarification, I think we had all agreed upon this last time, but we as commission are not gonna reach out to individual candidates. Or we're gonna
What
not have.
are your suggestions
what are your
on,
suggestions?
on guidelines here?
Everything goes through us. Now, once we give you the candidate materials, you'll know who the 5 candidates are. And you can double check our internet research or whatever, but we do suggest that you don't try contacting references, things like that, or people in their community, because frankly, it spooks the candidates.
Right.
I've lost candidates. Well, what's going on? You hired a professional. Well, why are they doing their own thing? Now, again, internet, please, anything you find out, please go ahead and look, because, you know, it doesn't hurt to have another set of eyes on it.
So when you provide your candidate, let's call him candidate A, is it going to state, I talked to reference 1, 2, 3, here's what they said, or is it going to say endorsed by?
You will say, Mayor Brolbert, Ocean Ridge, phone number, and then you'll have about a 1-page summary of what she had to say.
From you.
And then you'll get another, you know, that'll be Vice Mayor or Commissioner Pugh or whatever, and 1-page summary of what he had to say.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah, I don't like summarizing references because frankly, it's more work, but you know what? I think you should get the flavor of the individual people, what they had to say rather than trying to do a composite and yeah, here's the people we talked to.
All right, everybody good with this?
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, just wanted to remind you about the public comment if you want to talk
Oh, that's right.
about the actual selection process, since you will only.
Oh,
be
yeah, I had
given
that
one.
back there. That was Joanne's question.
And what we do when it comes time to select the city manager or town manager in this case, is we will give you a ballot. It'll have the 5 finalist names on it. It's a straw ballot, it's not binding. And we ask you to pick your top 2 candidates. And so each of you has 2 votes, so that's 10 votes. It's distributed among 5 candidates. I suppose theoretically each candidate could get 2 votes and then it'd be up a creek. But the way it sorts out is that usually there's somebody who just kind of rises to the top, or 2 that rise to the top. And you'll see one candidate with 5 votes and one with 4 votes. And obviously there's only 1 left, so the other 3 are not getting anything except for one person might get 1 vote. Then, assuming you're okay with that, ranking, 2, 5, and 4, then we do a second vote, because it could conceivably be 5 first place votes, and, 4 first place votes and 5 second place votes. And if that's the case, then we want to, talk about it, so.
So we're ranking them.
You're not actually ranking, because we just ask you to pick your top 2. You're not saying 1 and 2.
Then I lost you there. Then how do I end up with knowing that it's 5 first place versus 4? if
Oh,
we're not
because
ranking
we take a second vote.
afterwards?
Yeah, after
When you
the
narrow
first
it down
vote.
to A, B, C.
Right, you've got,
Then you rank them.
you've got Colin and Richard, for example. Richard might have 5 and Colin might have 4, but it's just check marks at that point. And so it might be that, you really like Colin with his 4 votes. Richard, so there's 4 first place votes and there's 5 second place votes for Richard. And maybe Duran gets the last vote, who knows?
I don't think he wants it. So the only other elephant in the room that really kind of, I think, threw a wrench into our process last time was the veterans preference. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that we will have to work with that again, so.
That's why I was saying expand beyond 5.
I know
Well,
what
yeah,
you're
which,
saying.
which I think you're going to do. You're going to, knowing that the veterans go through anyway, or then looking at the 5 top candidates, whether or not that includes them or not.
Yeah, and the town attorney may comment on this, but the veterans preference can gives you a little leg up. It's a plus to get you, say, to the next stage, but it doesn't necessarily get you to the final stage.
Well, that's not how we do it. So we need your expertise on that.
I can speak with Colin about this,
Right.
but if we're not doing a rank system and you're just picking based on overall qualities, they do go to the final.
Correct.
But I'll talk with Colin because this is a little different than what was discussed initially, and we'll talk with him about the legal aspects of it.
You don't want to get in trouble either.
No, we got enough. Perfect. So
Okay.
we know it's part of the deal.
The last thing I want to mention is, and I emailed Lynn late about this today, is the agreement to get the background screenings.
Yeah.
We have to do a separate agreement, because they have to do an agreement with a background screening firm. And it's just to make sure we protect the confidentiality of the information. Do you want to have the mayor sign off on that contract?
I'm fine signing off on it.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so we need a motion here, Christine?
Yes.
On the search, okay. I'll entertain a motion on the update of the search. Are we to accept?
So
Here we
moved.
go. Do we need a second?
Second.
What are we motioning?
I was waiting for Mark.
On agreeing to the update on the search, absolutely. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making the trip. Really appreciate that.
Oh, it's great fun.
We'll talk. All right then. Agenda item number 10, Resolution 2022-21, amending the adopted schedule of fees. Town Clerk Avery, would you read the resolution into the record?
Resolution number 2022-21, resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, amending the adopted schedule of fees for various services and providing for repeal of conflicting resolutions and an effective date.
Attorney Godot, would you please update us on this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. In your backup, you have information regarding the fee schedule that we're proposing to make a couple of revisions to. There is one building, I believe, amendment. From the clerk side of things, we are clarifying a text amendment to be included in the application fees. That was previously just an oversight, wasn't in there. We are adding a asterisk to note that the fees listed are the minimum fees to be charged by the town to ensure that we recoup all outside consulting costs. And finally, there's a couple just tweaks to the language regarding the reviews that are needed for certain public records requests that require a special service charge due to the extensive nature of the request. And then there's the building fee change. I'm sorry, also there is, as highlighted, there's also a police services change.
Correct. All right, I'll open the floor for public comment. Any input? All right, hearing none, I will close the floor. I will open the floor for commissioner discussion. Mr. Wieslak?
I am perfectly good with everything.
Fine.
Good.
Good.
I'm fine as well. So I will entertain a motion on the request.
So moved.
Second.
Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right. So next is approval of expenditure of budgeted funds for document scanning in the amount of $97,100.48 to Laserfish and approval of quote from MCCI based on National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance pricing. Interim Manager Ladner, would you please update us on this?
And for those of you with your binders, this is number 5, the tab number 5. This was pulled off the consent agenda because it's a companion to the next item. As you're aware, the town has been working to digitize and index all of our historic records for the past several years. This includes all the historic building record files, site plans, construction and land development files, as well as all the permitting files. All the additional town records, including ordinances, resolutions, meeting minutes, property tax records, will also be digitized and retained in accordance with the Florida retention statutes for public records. Converting all these public records to an electronic and indexed form that is searchable will not only increase our efficiency of town staff, but reduce the time necessary to respond to public records requests and reduce the number of public records requests submitted to the town, as it will make them available in a searchable format via the town's website. The first step was taken when the commission approved the purchase and use of software Laserfish by the town clerk's office. The next step is to have all these historical records scanned. MCCI is the parent company of Laserfish and has provided a quote to have all of the indexing of the historical documents scanned, which currently take up 2 full rooms here in Town Hall. The total quote is $97,148. This includes all of the building, clerk, tax, finance, and human resource files. A second quote was provided, which provides the breakdown of costs of files attributed just to the building department, which is $70,781.30. The second estimate was necessary as the funds collected and spent out of revenues collected from the fees generated from the building department can only be used for the operation and maintenance of that department. This amount is more than has been anticipated for the overall scanning of the documents, and we will be seeking an agenda amendment for the budget which is our next item to cover that. Digitizing these records provides security for the town in the event of a disaster, ensuring that all of her historical records are preserved, improves our efficiency, reduces the turnaround for public records requests, and provides greater transparency for the public.
All right, I will now open the floor for public comment. Hearing none, I will close the floor. All right, let's open the floor for commissioner discussion. Commissioner Pugh?
Well, we've been budgeting it for 3 years now, it looks like, and so we haven't used, the money's going back into the town general revenue, so literally, we've already pretty much paid for it, so I'm all for it. Plus, it reduces the space for the town hall.
Absolutely. Vice Mayor?
Agreed with everything you said.
Commissioner Eastside?
You better record it.
The $70,700 that are attributed to the building department, they're coming out of the building department revenue, which is a limited fiscal budget item anyway, so it really costs the town budget
Nothing.
$26,500, $26,600. And we've been kicking that can. And again, just for those that did not hear that, there's 2 rooms in this town hall.
Well, they're not this size.
Full. They're not this size, yes, okay, but 2 rooms full of documents that we'll be freeing up, so, yes. We'll Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Fawes?
Yeah, all for it. We're pretty Flintstone right now and we're getting an electric car.
Absolutely. It's, we're in the future here. Let's put them all digitized and move forward. So I'll entertain a motion on the request for the expenditures.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. 12, resolution number 2022-22, resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, amending fiscal year 2022-2023 budget beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023. Town Clerk Avery, would you read? I just read it into title by record, so took care of that one for you. Interim manager, would you please update us on this item?
Certainly. I know it has not been practice under Manager Stevens to do budget amendments until the end of the year. However, with this large expenditure, this is something that traditionally I have done budget amendments every quarter in previous communities. And we are also early enough in the fiscal year that we don't want to burn down our contingency funds. There are several potential issues that we've run across already this fiscal year with water mains, with leaks that may cause us to do major water projects in this fiscal year. Being less than 25% in the year, our contingency is only 100,000. This would essentially take a good portion of that if we did not do this budget amendment. So we would be amending the building department budget, which has $25,000 current in FY23, and increasing that amount by an additional $46,000, which is coming out of the building department fund reserves. And the general fund clerk's budget, which has $4,000 budgeted for scanning, and increasing that by an additional $23,000 in those line items. And I believe we have the budget, both the revenue and the expenditures, where you can see we're going from having budgeted $8,698 in using reserves to $31,698 in actual regular reserves, and then under the building department, $26,892 to $72,892. Again, those differences in the revenue side, so that we can make those then expenditures in the building department and the general fund for the approval that we just did for the expenditure of the scanning. This is important, make sure our budget is balanced and we can move forward, and we don't have to worry at the end of the year that we forgot to do the budget amendment, and it's done now.
All right, thank you very much. I will now open the floor for public comment. Hearing none, I will close the floor. Commissioner discussion. Commissioner Pugh?
It's just a continuation of the previous
Exactly.
vote we just had. Now, some of these documents, you'd be funny to believe that some of these documents are actually in the old town hall attic. Believe it or not, that's how old some of these documents are. The boxes are like falling apart. Anyway, it's a fun fact.
Fun fact.
Raccoons used to gnaw on them.
Right. Been there, done that.
Lovely building.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor?
I agree with you doing the amendment rather than waiting to the end of the year, and just thank you for the hard work you put into it.
There you go. Commissioner Beasley?
The only thing that I would like to make sure is that if we're moving that money in and the bill is not able yet, just like Mrs. Bessler said in her public comment, let's make sure that that money stays in savings for as long as it possibly can, until we actually need it. Now you have the authority to pull it, leave it there.
Yes.
Until you need it.
Commissioner Claus?
Yeah, it's just a vote to fund what we just voted to do.
Yep.
And as far as a quarterly budget adjustment, I think that's a great idea. I'll just keep doing it.
I agree as well. So housekeeping for the money we just spent. Therefore, I will entertain a motion on the request for the amending of the FY 2022-23 budget.
I move to adopt resolution 2022-22, adopting budget amendments for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023, providing for an effective date.
Do I hear a second? There you go. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, then we are number 13. Agenda item 13, request from 10 Harbor Drive building permit extension. Interim Manager Ladner, would you please update us on this?
I will actually defer this to building official Guy.
Ronnie?
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioner, Madam Mayor. So this is a regular agenda item, though it seems that we're asking for an extension for a permit that has been given one administrative extension by the building official and is now on 18 months. So it actually requires, based on town code, that you guys take a look at it to offer them an extension. This is a project 10 Harbor Drive South. It is a single family home. It's a very prominent site on the entrance of Harbor Drive. And as everyone can see, it's actually a very nice house and it's mostly completed. They should be finished by early next year. Just a little bit over schedule according to the contractors, but they just need a little bit more time to complete the project. Thank you.
All right, I will open the floor for public comment. Hearing none, I will close the floor. I will now open the floor for commission discussion. Let's start with Commissioner Bislek.
Yeah, they're basically almost done on it. Very nice house, and yeah, it's one of the key sites. The only thing that I would like to say in this, and this is not related directly to this extension request, when I remember the day that that this was in front of P&Z, and that was probably 2020, when they asked for the approval back then. And the comments that P&Z had with shade trees, also on this particular project, and I drove by there the other day, and the trees that are on there is minimal to barely minimal, and that's unfortunate. However, that has nothing to do with the extension, and yes.
All right, Commissioner Cos?
So for those of you who've been to the last couple of town meetings, we've had what's this, the 7th one, and we just rubber stamp it as an extension. The town attorney is working on a ordinance that will, because you can't get a house built during the allotted time. So we're going to extend the allotted time to build a house, so people don't have to keep on going through the process and payment of extending. So I'm all for this, and hopefully we'll have that ordinance quite soon.
It will be on the January agenda.
Great.
Pretty soon. Commissioner Pugh?
Oh, I'm fine with it. I mean, but I have a question. Are we going to be speaking toward that item on what you want to bring to the agenda on January at the planning and zoning meeting? Because I've seen planning and zoning, some of the planning and zoning members aren't really happy with the extension of the 2 years. Not putting the words in their mouth, but it's what I've ascertained from a few of the members, or a couple of members.
The draft ordinance that will be on the January agenda is the draft ordinance that was presented to P&Z, and I will present their comments to the ordinance, and then it will be at the pleasure of the commission how you want to address P and Z's comments and or the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor?
I agree with everything. I will say I did drive by, and because it is such a prominent house as you drive down A1A, it is absolutely a shame that there's not more vegetation. It looks very stark and very stark.
Stark and stark.
Stark and stark.
All right, the extension is fine by me because as you said, things have changed with time-wise getting things done, and we are addressing this in the big picture. So we're giving them the extension is fine. So I'll entertain a motion on the request for the
So
building
moved.
permit.
Second.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Another unanimous vote. All right then, agenda item 14. Request from 6660 North Ocean Boulevard, building permit extension and waiver of fees. Interim Manager Ladner, would you please explain the item?
Again, I will defer this one to building official Guy.
Thank you very much,
Please.
Town Manager. Feel like I'm playing a little bit of World Cup here. So this one is a smaller permit. It's a single trade permit for the reason expressed by the contractor had some communication issues with the owners that were out of town. All they're asking for is just to renew their permit beyond the 18.
All right, I'll open the floor for public comment. Hearing none, I will close the floor for public comment. Commissioner Pugh, any input here?
I'm fine with it. I make motion.
I'll second that motion.
Look at that. Anything to add there, Martin, before we?
Aye.
I have a question.
Yeah, exactly.
Who gets the
Next.
$95? Nobody?
They're not asking for a reduction.
They're not,
Right.
that's what he
Isn't
said.
that
They're not
the
asking.
basic?
I did not request a waiver. Renewal.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, agenda item 15, just lying here. Discussion of providing policing services to Gulfstream Views. Chief Jones, would you please advise us on this item?
Absolutely. Thank you, Commission, for the opportunity to present this. Several months ago, we were approached by the new community which has been built and developed just south of Briney. They border Briney at the Old Ocean and Briney Breezes Boulevard intersection. It's a community of approximately 8 townhomes that, I'm sorry, there may be more than that. I thought there was 8, but it may be larger. The reality is that
14.
I'm gonna offer them the opportunity to come up and speak about what their request is in reality, but to brief you initially, this is just whether or not the commission would be interested in entertaining the discussions to have the police department within the Ocean Ridge Police Department offer services to this community instead of Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office offering the police services there. This is something that we've discussed with the sheriff directly already, and there's no opposition from the sheriff's office in providing the service. It would be a feed-based service, very similar to the service that we provide in Briney. Obviously not at the cost because of the size of the community. We have communicated with legal staff to make sure that this is something that we can likely put together as a proposal. So if the commission is willing to entertain it, then we can obviously start the negotiation process and discussions with the community about what those services detail and what kind of fees are associated with those services so that we can bring that back to the commission for approval in the future.
All right. Did you say you had somebody from?
So there are members from Gulfstream Views present if they would like to step forward and speak to the commission.
Welcome.
I'm Maria Beckett. I'm actually a resident at 11533 Old Ocean Boulevard, part of the Gulfstream Views community. There are 14 townhomes there. And all of those homes are now owner occupied for the most part. I think there may be a couple of folks that are renting theirs. First of all, I want to thank you very much for allowing us to be on your agenda this evening. A little longer than I thought.
Sorry.
I'm not going to take up too much time. I can tell you though, it was quite refreshing, especially during the initial public comment period, just to hear the commitment that the community has to the town and, the wonderful accolades that I heard about, what I think we already suspected with the Ocean Ridge Police Department. And it's just inspiring. So I'm really glad to be here. I'm speaking as the president of our association. I'm representing our owners, a few of whom are here. And before I go any further, I also want to thank Chief Jones for his support. He actually reached out to us to see how we could work together to make this, our new home, a very safe environment. So we're committed to that. In fact, we've actually purchased the license plate recognition cameras. We have 2 installed on our properties. We're very much looking forward to being able to work with Ocean Ridge and the police department as we go forward, and sincerely hope that you will support us and allow us to move forward in negotiating whatever agreements need to be go in place for us to do this. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right then.
Wait a second, the public comment?
I'm about to. Mr. Brown, would you like to make a public comment?
I have a little background in this area, and in this particular spot. It's actually in the county. The only thing that I would be concerned about is our police department attempting to enforce parking issues on the portion of Old Ocean that still exists. That is a public right-of-way. It's a beach access. It's been there for over 100 years. And these folks don't own the ocean portion until 25 feet from the asphalt. The portion that's in front of that to the asphalt is public property, owned by all of us. It's a public right-of-way. And I have documents to confirm that. The developer put up signs that said private property, no parking all around the beach access. Well, I will confess that I contacted code enforcement and had those signs removed. And I'm very well liked in that neighborhood because they didn't want those signs there either. Now, I don't know what their view is about people parking there, but it's always temporary parking. No one stays overnight or anything like that. But it's not their property. The asphalt in front of their condo belongs to the county and to us. It's a public right-of-way. And by the way, the right-of-way goes all the way down the coast. In front of Malibu, Malibu has put hedges there. They don't own that land. That is a public right-of-way all the way down to the county park, all the way down the Gulf Stream, and into St. Andrews, which has private property signs on the beach, which is not private property, it's public property. So that would be the issue that I have. I'm a beach access guy, as you know. So I don't want anything to interfere with people using that pathway at the end of the street that's been there for so long. So as long as the chief can provide them service, I don't know what kind of service they want. They want you to drive into the driveway, turn around and drive back out?
So any legal agreement that we would enter into with any private property owner would be specific to the private property that's owned by that owner. It does not include any other areas that are not their private property. That would be specifically outlined within any contract that we would have provided, as well as it is in the Briney contract. So that's, I don't.
You have it on tape, on record, you just said.
Yeah, it takes people.
All right, is there any other public comment?
The area. We're happy to have you.
Oh, yeah. All right, so public comments now closed. We're
Did you
open
have
for
public
commission. No, I gave him the chance.
Can I start off?
Yes, would you like to start off?
Yes, I spoke to Mayor Gene Adams today. He's the mayor of Briney Breezes. He is sorry he can't, apologizes that he cannot be here this evening. But he asked that I would go ahead and convey our discussion. He is very much in support of this, this situation of our ORPD patrolling the townhomes. Not only does it benefit the townhomes, but it also benefits by default, folks in Briny and also folks in the Surf Pocket, because if you've got something going on, they're going to scale the wall and they're going to go north or south. I doubt they're going to swim to Bimini. So I just wanted to pass on that information, and that he appreciates that you guys put up 2 cameras. There's another 2 cameras in Briny, is there not, Chief?
There's actually 3 that have been installed in Briny, so now the south end of town entirely, no matter how you come and go, does capture video images of that, which has been very helpful for us keeping the crime rates down this year.
Absolutely. So not only is Mayor Adams in approval of this, I think it is a wonderful idea, and I think it's a wonderful service that we've got a great reputation, and I just applaud you for working with the group to see if we can make this happen.
Perfect. Commissioner Pugh, what's your input?
I'm all for it, just so long as, in your professional opinion, it doesn't affect the level of service that we provide to the Ocean Ridge and Briny Breeze residents as of now. So with this, I mean, well, honestly, I built all the pools there, so I know very intimately what's going on there. And they have gates. So I don't see how it really affects our level of service. In fact, it would enhance it a little more because, again, as we move farther into this, I mean, the sheriff, I know, wants to get rid of the county pocket. So you never know what comes down the line. Mm-hmm. However, as we get into more and more this type of thing, we will end up having to increase our size of our department, will we not?
Yeah, so the absolute thought is that as we offer these types of services to communities like Briny as well as Gulfstream Views, it's never created a burden on the police department, and it's never provided additional staff to the police department either. So these services have always been provided within the current realms that we have, staffing levels. Based on what they're asking from us and what we would be providing, it is definitely an enhancement to the security within Briny Breezes. And I would say that it's an enhancement to the security in our community as well because of the fact that they're willing to be a partner to our organization and provide those cameras at their own expense separate from this contract. So, that shows that they're committed not only to being a part of our community through this contract, but helping us keep those crime numbers down, whether we have an agreement with them or not. So I think this is a partnership more than anything, and I think it's beneficial to all 3 communities.
Commissioner Bislett?
I'm very much in favor of this. In the staff meeting, we had that talk briefly that, if something happens in a county pocket, unless there's a crime that happens on their property and that criminal will not leave that property, they would set foot into most likely Briny Breezes, in which case we would be responding to it anyway. And truthfully, we would be responding to it anyway, even if it would be in the county pocket, because that's what police departments do, they cooperate with each other. So it is a natural reach that we're taking this on. If they are willing to do it with us, thank you. I think we are willing to have you.
Commissioner Cos?
I just had one question.
Match.com.
You guys currently have security, is that coming on?
They fired him.
Right.
You fired him already? Oh, Jesus.
We're looking for this instead.
That's why we need the contract.
Exactly.
We're giving the money to Chief Jones.
We no longer have on-site security.
Right.
That was actually a service that the developer brought in.
Yeah.
That was not a budgeted item for us, so we ended that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm all for it, and for all the reasons that have been expressed. It's just when we do reach an expansion of the police department to what Jeff's talking about, where you go, okay, there's so many more man hours, then obviously we have a bigger discussion.
Absolutely.
I'm also in favor. Welcome to the hood. All right. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Everybody in favor say aye.
BIO.
Anybody opposed? Unanimous. Wonderful. Thank you very much, and thank you, Chief Jones, for making it all happen.
Thank you.
And I presume you'll be at all future commission meetings?
She's in. All right then. Let's see, agenda item number 16, discussion of the possibility of implementing an EMT program within the police department. Chief Jones, would you please update us on this item?
So thank you for the opportunity to present this as well. This is an item that was actually brought forward by a new civic organization in the town, Starbright Civic Organization. They approached the police department in October and requested further discussion regarding this topic. I think it was stemmed based on a couple incidents of medical services that were provided by members of the police department, some of which were EMT certified members and others which were not. And as well as previous discussions within budget hearings and meetings over the last several years within the town where we've talked about this as potentially a service. As a result of these discussions, they requested that I put together a presentation to their group to explain what this would entail and what kind of cost we would be looking at to create a program like this, to see whether or not they could help establish or try to obtain some kind of funding to help get the program started in the beginning. So as a result of that, we did do a presentation for a group of about 10 members, I believe, and that presentation went very well. It was in the form of a PowerPoint presentation that outlined the requirements of the Florida Department of Health, basic life support program that is, permittable under the Department of Health's requirements for us to enter into that type of an arrangement if we were to have staff that were properly trained, equipment that is required by that Department of Health ruling, as well as medical direction from a physician that gives us kind of a guidance on what things we can do as EMTs to help patients who are in need. Obviously, the fact that we arrive at the majority of calls for service in less than 3 minutes, typically we're less than 2 minutes, but that obviously means that we have the ability to influence the decision as to whether or not someone has, the ability to successfully survive until they reach hospital. Obviously, we don't have any control of things beyond that point, but those golden minutes, as we refer to them, are what we care most about. And as you all see in the monthly reports that we get, there are some times that fire rescue services may take 3, 5, 7, 10, 12 minutes to arrive here. Those minutes are critically important to survival rates. And we want to make sure that our staff is properly trained to provide a service that we are asking to be able to provide. At the same time, we know it's not cheap and it's not budgeted. And there are priorities in the town that have to be looked at when we discuss budgets. And, this is why I think it was brought forward as a civic organization, looking at an option to do something that benefits the community as a whole, at least in year 1, and how we go about it in years 2, 3, 4, and 5 and beyond. So conceptually, let's think about it as a 4-year program, where we start out certifying 25% of our staff in year 1. That cost is going to be approximately $50,000. Now, the cost of certifying the staff is not $50,000, but when you talk about the cost of paying that staff member to go to training, having coverage at their post while they're not here, all of those fees and factors are in that number, as well as the cost to obtain medical direction, services from a physician, as well as the cost of the equipment that we would have to install in some of our vehicles so that we would meet those statutory requirements. With that being said, that's only 25% of our department. So if we staged it out over 4 years, it would be $50,000 in year 2, 3, and 4 as well, which is a commitment that the commission would have to make as to whether or not they think there's value in doing that in years 2, 3, and 4. But what I'd like to bring to everybody's attention is just because we look at it as a 4-year plan and program does not mean that we have to scale it to 100% completion within 4 years. There's no reason that we can't say, okay, we have 25% of our staff trained in year 1. Those folks are now assigned to schedules and rotations where there's at least one EMT on every shift. And now maybe we don't do a full 25% in year 2. Maybe we only do 12.5% more to get us working towards that. And by the time we get to year 3 or 4, there's going to be turnover in staff. There's going to be folks who may come to us already certified as EMTs or paramedics. And there's some staff already in the police department that's certified. There's 3 of us. So that already takes care of a percentage as well. So I think this is a scalable program that really needs some guidance and direction from the commission as to whether it's something the commission thinks is valuable and whether or not the commission thinks it's something they want to entertain as a project for us to start in year 1, potentially with funding from the nonprofit organization. And then whether or not the commission thinks that it's valuable enough for us to try to find funding in years 2, 3, and 4. And when I say trying to find funding, I'm not asking you to commit to 100% of budgetary numbers in this year, because obviously there's things that are going to happen between now and then that you ought to consider as well. What I'm asking for is whether or not you think there's value in that, because obviously there's some residents that think there is, and if there is a partnership, again, I think we have opportunity to look at alternative funding options moving forward too, that would potentially maybe all come together, and now it's not a huge burden on the town, and maybe the town can help out, the civic organization can help out, and everybody can come together and we can have a successful program. Now, with that being said, if we get into years 1 and 2, and I come back to you and say, listen, this is not working for the town, and this is why, I'm going to be willing to do that. I'm not going to say, well, this is my pet project and I want it to succeed and I'll do whatever it takes to make it succeed. I believe in it or I wouldn't be presenting it. I've been an EMT since the day I started here, and I've worked full-time on an ambulance service prior to this as well, and I've been a SWAT medic, and I've worked in the EMS world for 20 plus years. And I think there is value in us providing our residents with service that they can't get anywhere else. And that's something we can provide, and I think that that makes our community stand out from the communities around us, which I believe is important as we move forward in the future.
Thank you very much. I will open the floor for public comment. Mr. Carey?
Thank you. I think this is a wonderful idea, and I came forward because I believe that this topic had come up when we had a room full here. We'd have a line standing here of fellow neighbors and citizens. This is important, and we're an aging community, and those few minutes count. And I look at the statistics that you put out each month, and when I see 8 or 10 minutes for the EMTs to arrive, it gives me concern. And I know the one occasion where we've had to have a call to our home, the town officers were there almost immediately. And that is just going to save lives. And so I'm not speaking just for me. Hopefully I'm speaking for many others. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
Can I invite, if there's no other public comment, can I invite the president of the association organization?
Come on up.
Thank you. Hi. Janet Shines, 120 Dolphin Road. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Starbright Civic Collective as president of the group. Commissioners, Vice Mayor, Mayor, thank you for your time. It's what's been a long evening. As you know from our presentation last year, we were created when local resident Stella Kolb saw a growing gap of services for those residents in our town most in need. And she brought together a group of us as dedicated residents to discuss how we would help to address that issue. After a lot of discussions and planning meetings, and with the support and dedication of Carol Bessler, the group was then formally formed as a 501c3, and the board, as well as funding for initiatives, was put together. As you heard Chief Jones say in his presentation, there's a need in our town, I believe this strongly as a resident who's benefited from it, for our police officers to be trained as EMTs so that they can respond in an emergency and help save the lives of our residents until the Boynton rescue teams can arrive. And by the way, one thing the chief didn't mention was that if there's really high winds, the Boynton Rescue Squad won't come at all. Another reason why we need our officers trained, at least one on every shift. When Chief Jones presented his program to our board of directors, we were so impressed with both the program, the benefit it will bring to our town residents, and also the chief's dedication of protecting all of us. And we believe this is a very worthwhile and wonderful initiative that our Starbright Civic Collective is proud to support as our first fully funded initiative. In the minute that matters, we want our residents to be safe. We want them to be protected and cared for. And we believe that Chief Jones' plan to train additional officers so that we have at least 25% trained, one on every shift, achieves just that. And as such, this evening, we're very proud to present a check that represents our commitment to fund that first 25% fully. All of the vehicle equipment, all of the overtime, all of the fees, approximately $48,000, $50,000 for the EMT training for the town officers under the supervision of Chief Jones. These funds will pay to train 4 officers, and we are very, very proud of this. As a not-for-profit, this represents a significant pledge for us. $48,000 is a lot of money for our group as we look to deliver on our promise to improve the lives of our residents, and we're really proud to make this commitment tonight as we stand before you. We'd welcome any residents who would like to join us to apply for membership. And of course, we also welcome anybody who'd like to donate because we've got a lot ahead of us. And we promise to our town residents that we as a group will do everything in our power to provide support for you and for programs for those in need. Chief Jones, would you join us for the presentation of the check by board member Mary Ziegenfuss and our treasurer, Diane? Wait, I want to come stand by you. Come up for one more quick photo. It is $48,000. It'll only take a minute.
Will the bank take that check?
Weirdly enough, if the account number is right, which this one isn't, they actually will take a big check. This is the rest of our board of directors that have raised and are doing this money. We'll take one quick picture. Gene Burling, that's right, you can't get out of it. You gotta come up, come on.
Betty, don't hide in the back.
Yeah, Betty, you're hiding.
Yeah.
Don't hide in the back.
Jerry, take a picture, not a mobile deposit.
Well done, guys.
Yeah.
So we would ask that the town commission, we know that we will not get a commitment, but we would ask that the town commission seriously consider supporting that. Again, we are fully funding the first year to help protect our residents. We'll continue to raise funds to help to support this program. Thank you very much for keeping us safe, Chief.
Thank you, Janet. Do we have any other public comment? All right, public comments now closed. We'll open it up for commission comment. I know exactly where this is going. Commissioner Pugh?
Well, thank you so much to the Starbright organization for that donation. The town of Ocean Ridge residents rightly expect and deserve a level of service because we pay in our taxes for our police department. This enhances our level of service to our residents tenfold, if even more than that. So I have to congratulate the chief for such a excellent idea. And it kind of brings us back to the past when we didn't have police officers, we had public safety officers. And that was, we had our own fire truck and on and so on and so forth. I don't want to go through that whole history, but this brings us back to a place where the officers that we have can do mostly everything. And they literally save our lives day in and day out, protect our property, and do a great job. And I think this enhances our level of service, again, I'll say it again, to a very, very high level of service. And that's what I think we, as residents, deserve as on our town. Thank you.
Vice Mayor? I, for the second time this evening, agree wholeheartedly with Commissioner Pugh.
Right back.
Buy a lottery ticket.
I also would like to thank Starbright. This is a great initiative. I know that it took a lot of meeting and a lot of planning, and I also know that, Chief, it took quite a bit of time with you. You and I have been discussing this for 10 years plus, so to see a group be able to raise the funds and collectively bring it forward is absolutely fantastic. I think that not only do our residents deserve this, but as we start to cross-pollinate with our other neighbors to the north and the south, there may be a benefit eventually that we could help provide these services to others for a fee and really strengthen everything that we do, because I know that folks in Briney are extremely excited about this. I think their aging population may be a little bit further down the hill than ours, so they are thrilled about this also. So I applaud all of you. Thank you.
Commissioner Cos?
Just want to say thank you to the Starbright. That's just a terrific act of civic action, which the whole town just applauds, and I just want to say thank you. There's one factoid from my medical days, which the chief will correct me if I'm wrong, that kind of brings us all into focus. You hear the word heart attack, you know you're going to survive, right? The other thing that the other cardiac occurrence is called cardiac arrest, okay? You have 3 to 5 minutes before you're a dead man. So with the EMT, we now can deal with many more of these sudden cardiac arrests. And that is, you're literally talking life and death. So thank you again, and thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bishop?
Thank you. Thank you, Janet, and all the members and everybody that donated to your organization. Thank you for making this possible. Thank you for working with the chief. It is the kind of money that you spend in hopes that you never use it. But if you do need it, as some of our residents unfortunately have experienced in the most recent past, as we heard earlier this evening, it is that moment when no amount of money matters, because it's your life. And thank you for doing this. I'm wholeheartedly into it. And yeah, I hope we can expand.
I agree. Thank you so much. I mean, what better thing could we ask? And the combination of working with our fabulous police department and making it one step up of what the offerings are, I just couldn't be more thrilled and grateful. So there's my input. So I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right. Everybody in favor? Aye. I'm not even asking if anybody's opposed. I guess I have to. Anybody opposed? Passes unanimously. Again, thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Agenda item number 17, P&Z Commission Report. Vice Chair Carey, would you update us, please?
Good evening again. Let me zero in on the one area that we do have that there may be some question as to why the planning and zoning, we didn't take an action, but we had a consensus about the ordinance extension. So the sense, there's two factors, and the one is that we don't think it's a good idea to make a permanent change.
I'll never get done, so.
Oh, no, hold on.
All right, Mr. Carey, continue, please.
We don't think it's a good idea to make a permanent change in our timelines on building permit extensions for what is a, maybe not temporary, but an interim problem. A lot of this stems from the supply chain issues post-COVID that have occurred, and other issues which we have a builder on the commission certainly knows well. Our thought would be that we come up with a solution and then that kind of covered it for an interim time, but not a permanent. The reason why we don't think it's a good idea to make it permanent is the construction in our community has a big impact on the neighbors in the neighborhood. I live on Inlet K, so I'll give you my particular experience. We've had continuous construction there for many, many years. There's 4 homes, I think, being built right now, all of which are either come before you or going to come before you for these extensions. And it's very disruptive. It's one way in, one way out, trucks parked on the streets, turning around, clipping over lawns and corners. And if we relax our standards, a builder who's building in Delray and Gulfstream at the same time, he may say, I'm going to put my crews in Gulfstream and not feel the same pressure to get the job done within a reasonable time frame as quick as can. I'd rather them have the pressure to put the crews on Ocean Ridge projects and get the projects done in a reasonable time frame. So that's the thought process here. Keep the pressure on, and I don't know, Christie, you'd have to advise, but during this time, as these things come up, put them on the consent agenda. You know you're going to approve the extensions, so don't use valuable commission time. Just have them in the consent agenda, extend them if you need to, or come up with an ordinance that has a time frame that you're going to come back and it reverts back to our current ordinance unless you extend it again. And, that's really it. There's nothing else here worthy of discussion. Any questions for me?
Everybody good? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for hearing me out.
Absolutely. All right.
Thanks for waiting so long.
Yeah, right? Agenda item 18, interim town attorney manager Lanner, would you please, sorry, not attorney. It's getting late, oh my God. Okay, please present town manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The holiday season is upon us, and I'd like to take a few moments to express my gratitude for the open and friendly welcome I've received from the staff, commission members, and residents in the past few months. Ocean Ridge is truly a blessed community, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to serve as the interim manager. We've also celebrated several birthdays and anniversaries in November and December, especially Gary Roy's 11th anniversary with the town in November. And in December, we have 3 distinguished service members with long service: Captain Rick Stang with 9 years, Mario Galicio with 18 years, and the building department clerk will celebrate her 20th anniversary with the town on Friday, December 9th. I think that if anybody is in town hall this week and get an opportunity to see Lisa, definitely stop by. 20 years is a definite milestone for any employee with the town. November brought Hurricane Nicole to Ocean Ridge, and we are thankful that it was a small Category 1 storm. With that said, we did experience street flooding throughout town, drainage problems, and other minor issues. We were very fortunate that our residents and town facilities did not experience greater damage due to the timing of the storm at the full moon and the height of the storm reaching at king tide. The Public Works and Police Departments did a great job of making sure that the town was protected to the best of their ability, and they, along with members of the building department, made sure that all construction sites were prepared for the storm in advance. Our team here is one the community can be proud of, and everyone in the departments do a great job every day. During November, the Coastal Resiliency Partnership Group has begun meeting again to start considering the next steps we will take to benefit our communities. Currently, we are considering applying to NOAA, the North Atlantic Atmospheric Association, for a grant to assist the partner communities with urban heat island mapping project to identify areas that are in need of extreme heat mitigation. In 2022, 3 communities in South Florida participated in the NOAA Urban Heat Mapping Project: West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. I'll make sure to keep everyone informed on the CRP if it decides to pursue the 2023 grant cycle. The commission has approved moving forward with the new financial software of the town. I've been working with the staff to ensure that we have the right solution moving forward. The difficulties we experienced with Tyler Tech moving in relation to the building department, we are trying to move forward with the My Government Online as we approve the financial software today. We have had a few issues with Tyler Tech, believing that they have moved forward with deploying. I'm waiting for a response from their legal department. They are trying to provide us with a fully executed copy of the contract. As their representative and the town do not have fully executed copies. Once we have that ironed out, we will move forward with the building department's recommendation on the new permitting software. And as I do believe Durrani has spoken to all of you about, that will move forward and has a short 3 to 6 month timeline. The only other thing that we do have is, we have the joint planning and zoning meeting in January, except for the 11th. But when we set that, no time for that meeting was set. So we do need the commission to direct what time that meeting will take place, so we can let the planning commission members know, the public know, and move forward with that. So I am asking, and
Didn't I see 5 PM on there the other day?
there has not been a time published for that meeting because we don't have a, there was no time.
I think we did it on
determined.
purpose, didn't we?
Yeah, what date was that, Lynn?
It is
11th.
January 11th. It's the Wednesday after our January commission meeting.
So we actually got the 9th meeting, the 10th.
And we have the
Set.
the regular commission meeting was
11th.
moved to the 9th.
Right.
And you decided to have the joint meeting on the 11th.
Right, it's, just so everyone's aware, the 10th and the 12th are part of the hiring of the town manager process. So.
Yeah, but we
it's not
won't
gonna
be here.
affect us, Right,
That's not us.
but just be aware. Yeah, 11, 5 PM sounds great to me. Thank you, Mark.
5?
Sounds,
3.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah, how about in the afternoon?
I'm thinking the same thing, that if we are going, we have,
Well, we
how
already
many
got
people
the
on
public
both
that might
committees
fit
that are
this.
going to be going forward with their priorities and what have you? I believe earlier would be better, because we'll probably have to take a little break in there at some point.
Well, we also have to consider the public involvement, because it is an open public meeting, so.
So can we talk about that?
Yeah, let's,
Because I think the way that we had done it at one point was, it is a public meeting, and the public has the right to speak in front of that meeting, at the beginning of the meeting if they would like to. The way I see this workshop, the way that in my head I'm justifying this workshop and the time that we spent there is, so we can have a conversation, we here can have a conversation with the P&Z board in an open forum where we can discuss what priorities we have, what we'd like to see being discussed over the next 6 to 12 months, and what we'd like to see being moved forward. The public input in this does not, or should, in my opinion, should not necessarily be made at that particular meeting. This should be something that there's nothing being discussed and there's nothing being set in stone. It's simply for us like if you want to call it a roadmap, to say, these are the items that we are thinking about, these are the things that we probably want to see being moved forward. And yes, while the public obviously should be there and should listen to this, if an item then comes forward, the way I see it is at that point, when it comes to P&Z, the public has the ability to speak. And when it comes in front of the commission, the public has the ability to speak. I think the workshop is something that is between the 10 members, just to, bounce ideas off.
Okay, so what time?
I
Let's get back to our discussion. What time do you want to do it?
earlier in the afternoon is a good way to start. You were saying about 3.
2, 3?
3, 2, whatever. Oh, actually, you want to do 2? So we don't, how long do you think it's going to take? 3 hours?
3 hours.
At
3
least,
4
right?
hours, I think.
2 to
So-
5?
2, no close time.
And
but
it
2
should be
o'clock?
limited. 2.
2 o'clock? Would 2 work for you?
Yeah.
All right, let's go with 2 o'clock. I like the idea of earlier. How
Madam
about,
Mayor, just so you know,
please.
I do special magistrate work for Palm Beach County, and I have contested hearing that day, so I may be running late if it's at 2.
all right.
If you'd like, I can have someone from our firm sit in case I'm running late.
Look, we get Glenn
I
in
would
here.
actually rather have you, because We know.
Yes.
And you know us and what have you. What time would you think would be more?
That's it, I never know for Palm Beach County how long the agenda's gonna be. I would say I should be okay if you start at 3.
Well, then let's try for 3, and if you're,
Then move it to 3.
yeah, don't you think?
Yep.
I think it's worth the effort. 3 o'clock work for everybody here?
Sure.
All right, so there you go. Lynn, 3 o'clock? Good to go? Just so you know.
Do we also agree that we should set a time certain that, at a specific hour this should end? Again, the way that I'm gonna, I would like to have these meetings twice a year.
Right.
Because I think they're important, and at the same time, they don't need to last forever. They should, there should be.
Make it 3 hours. Make it 3 to 6.
I think 3 hours is
3 to
doable.
6?
I think 3 hours is,
When everybody's stomach starts to
Right.
growl.
Yeah, when everybody's getting hungry, they're gonna wanna go home. So.
yeah,
Hangry.
might bring that
Right,
winded
exactly.
stuff down. I think 3 to
That's
6.
it.
Does that sound good with you? 3 to
Yeah.
6? Steve?
Yeah.
3 to 6? All right, then, 3 to 6. Ms. Avery, 3 to 6. All right. Easy
And we
peasy.
don't have to use the full 3 hours.
No, obviously, but 3 to 6.
Yes, we will.
I think we will,
I'll
but we
make
don't.
sure of that.
Oh, Lord.
Now. All right. Does that sound good
Yes.
for you, Christie?
Yes, and Madam Mayor, as to the commissioner's comment about public comment,
Please.
do we want to address that now?
We might as well. I was going to bring it up.
From a legal standpoint, if it's a work session, you don't have to provide an opportunity for any public comment because you're not taking any official action. So the public comment would have to legally be provided once an item comes before either P and Z or the town commission for action. So that's the legal
Right.
status.
We're basically working towards possible consensus and pointing it in the direction of staff or P and Z, where, as Commissioner Vishlak said, anything that comes up there, there's more than enough 2-3 meetings on any item where people have the opportunity to chime in.
I think you
I don't
ought to
know, I
ask the
think-
public what they think about being told not to make public
It's a
comments.
public meeting, but it's not for the public.
Well, I think
Now,
we should.
we could do, what
Go
my
ahead.
other option was, is we could go down the middle here and offer public comment at the beginning of the meeting, like we do here, and then once we close it for workshop only, that's where we go.
Well, can I make another suggestion? Have it at the end, because you have a time certain.
At 6, you want to start having
So you have 15 minutes for public comment at the end. And look what happens when you have a 3-hour meeting. So I'm not saying that
Okay.
maybe most people won't stay the whole
that? But
3
I'm
hours.
just saying,
But
one
if they have
session,
something they really want to address, and if you're looking at the whole meeting,
then they've heard.
then they will
They've heard.
stay. They'll make-
Okay, so one opportunity, which is at the end. I have no problem with that.
Go with Jeff's idea though, 15 minutes, so we're now limited to 5:45. Seriously.
Yeah.
15 minutes. All right. Well, it depends on how many people are there. Yeah, like you said, by the end of the meeting.
By the last meetings we had, the last one we had
All right,
was
what,
only
does that
2
sound,
people.
is that
It made it to
too
the end.
specific?
No, you can absolutely do it that way. My suggestion would be is if you're gonna say we're gonna leave 15 minutes for public comment, depending on how many people wanna do it, is gonna dictate the time frame for each public comment.
All right,
So.
all right.
since you
So we'll
don't
take
have-
it as it comes at the end of the meeting. That makes perfect sense. I have no problem with that. Martin, you all right with that?
We leave the 3 minutes open, and if there's 5 people that speak, then we have 15 minutes. If there's 10 people, I'd like to hear the 10 people.
But are you good with having the public comment at the end of the meeting?
Yep.
All right, so there's our parameters.
And if there's any residents that want to have a certain item brought up, then they can contact us,
Contact ahead.
contact the P and Z members
Exactly.
by email, and we'll put it
All right,
on.
like I said, we're,
No, agenda's closed.
oh, true.
on the
Agenda
next
is closed.
No, agenda for the workshop is closed. But like you said, they'll have their opportunity to make a comment on what they're, all right, I think it's
Yeah.
doable.
Okay.
See, we got all that accomplished there, Lynn.
Yep, thank you.
All right. So next we will have,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor. We had on the July, the dates that we set, the July was still open. Did we come to a conclusion on that?
No, we did not.
When the commission meeting is for July, because the July one falls on the 3rd of July, which is a Monday. 4th of July is a Tuesday.
People might be
That's
away.
most likely a day that a lot of people would like to do a long weekend on it. So are we moving this
Question
to
would be the
the,
following Monday?
Are we doing that now?
we have.
I mean, why would we could set it at the meeting? Because you have everybody there.
Yeah, he's talking the July commission meeting. We set the
Oh,
commission.
July?
Yeah, where we
I thought we were
discussed
talking about
earlier.
the other.
She gave us a calendar earlier on. So
Well, usually
your suggestion is the Monday after.
I'm okay with the 3rd. I don't care because.
No, you're right.
I will be in town,
I
but
think
it's
you're right.
most
Not
likely
everybody
something
will.
that.
Because
So
it will also be budget time. So if we move it to the 10th rather than the 3rd, we would also do a special meeting for budget stuff on the 10th.
Would be a longer day.
That is what it is on that, than a budget year. We always have to do a special meeting. So fine. Move to the 10th.
10th. I think 10 sounds doable, right? Because I agree, people
Everybody good?
be out of town.
Yeah, Steve won't be here anyway.
Exactly.
Kelly, if you could just make note on that in the next announcements, that would be great.
All right, so let's see, next. Agenda item 19, Town Attorney Godot, do you have anything to report?
No report, thank you.
I do have a question.
Oh.
These signs on the beach, okay? This is the second or third time these signs have showed up in that same spot, okay? The town can remove signs from right-of-ways. I mean, I've seen the police do it a few times. My question is, what is the legality of the town removing a sign as egregious as one that's eastward of the high mean water line? Why can't the town go out there and remove that sign, since you can actually see it's eastward of the rack line?
If we're talking about the signs that are.
The beach signs, I mean, everybody's talking about it. My wife sent me a picture of it, and the thing looks like it's halfway in the dang ocean, for crying out
Is this one off Turtle Beach?
loud. Yeah.
Okay, so when Tracy Stevens here was as town manager, there was a permit application for signs that was approved. I believe that permit was for 4 signs. We can pull that permit back up and look at it. If they put up additional signs that they don't have a permit for, you're absolutely right. We should contact them and tell them to take down the signs that do not have a permit for. However, there is a permit, I believe, for 4 signs on the property. Part of the legal issue with it is, one, that it is both public trust property in terms of the public can utilize that property. It is also private property in the sense that the condominium's private property lines extend out that far. And there's other property interests involved regarding, public access and easements that the public have that have been created over the years. So there's a multitude of property interests in that property. Signs are a difficult issue for a variety of reasons that we've all discussed at one point or another. They applied for a sign, and what I have yet to hear as a legal issue is that the sign is prohibiting someone from exercising what property interests they may have in that property. So people don't like the signs. That's what we've heard from some people. Some people like the signs because people who do not know about the limitations of the sign believe that it is private property and don't spend a lot of time there. So there's pros and cons to these signs. From a legal standpoint, there's a hotbed of legal issues involved in terms of property interest involved, in terms of sign code involved, and all of those things. So I think the prior legal advice was, it's a hotbed of legal issues. We can get into it and start doing a lot of revisions to your code and addressing sign issues, addressing property interests and those types of things. But the first thing I would recommend is let's look at the permit that was approved. If they're not abiding by that permit, let's give them a call and tell them, hey, this is what your permit was only for. Start there, and then if the direction of the commission is to look more into it, to do more about it, to update your sign code, we can certainly pursue that.
All right, well, I know it's customary, I mean, I've been doing this for many, many years, this has come up over and over again, it's customary that the mean water high tide line is the line. You know, I mean, even the.
Yeah, but it
the
moves.
Florida, it moves, but even in the Florida Supreme Court even, it said that the marine high water line that is the line that customarily is where the public and the private goes, whether it moves or not.
I don't disagree with you.
But my question though is then, when somebody pulled a permit for 4 signs, Durrani, on those 4 signs, when they pull a permit, did they actually show a survey where those 4 signs are going when they pull this permit?
So with regards to those signs, they're not buildings. They don't require a building permit, it's an administrative permit. So Tracy Stevens, handled that one 100%.
I can answer your question, and I would like, I guess, Lynn or Chrissy to provide me copies of those permits if you find those permits, because that would be another mark against Tracy. Tracy told me there were no permits, but that Turtle Beach had come in and showed the locations in which they wanted to put their signs, their 4 signs, and Tracy okayed it. So Tracy said she did not give a permit, but she allowed it.
Well, how
It
is
may
that?
just be semantics, but I can
Right,
email each of you tonight with that documentation because it came up recently in public record request.
Right, but as far as your legal argument about the mean high water mark, I don't follow that at all.
That's what she says. There is a permit.
No, she doesn't know it's a permit. You said it might be a misunderstanding.
Semantics in terms of whether or not Tracy's gave a permit or whether she gave permission to put up signs.
Correct.
That's where I think the semantics is. What I'm trying to explain is, it's not just the public trust doctrine that applies to beach property. There's a bundle of property rights in beach property. And so trying to balance those property interests is always a struggle. So you're absolutely right, the public trust doctrine gives the public the right to recreate, to swim, to walk across that area. It doesn't give them the right to permanently camp there. Those are laid out, and actually that case that the gentleman read from tonight, those rights are not free and unconditional. There are limitations, and you still do have to look at the underlying private property interests. So they're competing property interests. So that's why this issue is not just a simple, not just me, but all your prior town attorneys did not just say, it's black and white, here it is, this is it, this is the end of the story. It's a lot of different issues you've got to look at, and that's why it's problematic.
I understand all that, but my problem is not just the sign, but it's the placement of where that sign is. That's my biggest issue. Now, if you have a sign that's up against a dune facing toward the water, please don't use my dune, okay. But when you have a sign that sits perpendicular to the dune and is on the beach sand at this point and is facing north and south, that's, to me, that is not a sign that this town and the public, which I am one of, to go on that beach, wants to see. So my biggest point in this whole issue is where exactly is those sign supposed to be when you pull a permit? So if we administratively, we as the town gave that okay, and that's going to be a problem. Because I do believe that if you're going to pull a sign in Ocean Ridge, administrative sign, it should, when you pull a permit, the sign should be, okay, where's the sign going? You can't just place a sign in the right of way, or you can't place a sign. So that's something that the building department would have to discuss. But this particular issue, to me, is where that sign is placed. And that's my problem.
So then that should come back to us, where we actually sit here and say, you know what, we are legislating that there will be no signs placed eastward of the mean high water mark.
Well, there shouldn't be one there anyway, but yeah.
Not just for reasons of, if you're disturbing the public or if you're, whatever the issues are. One of them being there's water coming up to that sign and it's washing the signs out, and apparently this is frequently happening with particular several signs over there.
Yeah, but the other issue
so
here,
that's up to us.
the other main issue here, though, is that the precedent that this would set. If this is allowed to stand, what stops every other property owner up and down the beach to start putting signs all the way into the beach?
My point.
It doesn't.
So let's legislate.
Which is what is happening.
Right. So it's gotta change, something's gotta change.
So do we wanna tell Christie to draft an ordinance to?
Well, no, I think let's look into she's gonna look into what's going on here now, and then we'll move on from there. And it's not,
The email that I sent to each of you about the public records request, attached to my email is a copy of what we're discussing.
all right, so I'll take a look at that tomorrow, Friday night. Wow.
The Sunshine Lawyer?
That was, he wrote in a 5-day letter regarding his public records request. It was the extensive public records request, yeah.
So it's in, okay,
So
thanks.
it's attached to my email.
All right, that was my question.
Right, last week. All right then. So where are we? Town engineer report included in the meeting package. Any
Police
questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
What time is it?
I have taken so much of your time this evening.
Oh,
So my
I'm
report is
sorry.
contained obviously within your packet. There's nothing unusual that is existing within that, so unless you have questions, I won't bore you with any.
I have a question.
of course.
Are you Martin now?
No, because a lot of stuff, we would handle in the beginning. But the thing is, the question comes up about the Boynton Beach, how we patrol that. And the city of Boynton Beach is a landowner, just like any other landowner, like me or everybody else on this state. So we patrol that as a typical resident of the town. Now, is there anything different that you do up there that you wouldn't do anywhere else?
So I have 4 main issues to talk about in addition to my report that I got from discussions that were made at public comment tonight. That's one of the issues. There are two issues regarding public parks within Ocean Ridge. One being Boynton Beach, which 100% you're correct. From every legal documentation that we find in any of our records, they are no different than a property owner like you or any other person that resides within this town, which means all of our ordinances apply to their property just like they do to your property. With that being said, they have posted their own ordinances, including their parking ordinance, which allows them to charge fees for parking and issue citations that they collect fees from at that location. That is not within their jurisdiction or boundaries, and that was one of the points of contention that I had with the city of Boynton when they went to this public parking system, was that it was not something that we were part of. Therefore, we didn't have an ordinance that would allow them to enforce that. They looked at it from a different legal perspective and approached it and said they had every right to do it, so I'm not pushing the issue because honestly, I'm not receiving citations, so there's no reason for me to go to court and battle that, right? The second issue is they have posted all throughout their park rules that are their park rules for all the parks in the city of Boynton. We don't enforce rules. They're not our rules to enforce. So the only violations of law that we enforce at that park are our town ordinances and state statute violations. So when he talks about the one particular gentleman that came forward and spoke about certain issues going on at the park, like people being there after dark, and that he's reported this because he's seen it, that would mean he was there after dark in violation of the same rule. Okay? So when he brings forth those kind of issues to the police department repeatedly, month to month, for the last 6 months, we explain that to him, that we don't enforce the city of Boynton's rules, and if he wishes for them to enforce their rules, they need to provide their own staff, like lifeguards or security or whatnot, to provide enforcement for those rules, as we will not do it. His secondary complaint is 6620, the county park, which is adjacent to Boynton Beach's park, and that he believes there are certain ordinances that we should be enforcing on the county beaches. And if it's a county ordinance, we don't enforce county ordinances. We only enforce our ordinances. Now, that being said, I am looking into the legalities of us taking on the responsibility of enforcing county ordinances in parks for the purpose of better control and regulatory authority, since we're here all the time and there's not anybody from the county parks here all the time. So I'll report back to you on that after the first of the year. But So as it relates to parks, those are our issues, and that's why there's some bones of contention about what we're enforcing, what we're not enforcing, and what the dispatchers tell them when he calls in and says, I want this type of service enforced, or I want this complaint handled. The other issue obviously was dogs on beach versus service dogs, and we've had that conversation, a ridiculous number of times as well, but it is a point of importance to our residents, and I don't want it to go unheard. I hear that month to month, and we do our best to enforce dogs on beach, but you actually had a public comment that mentioned the case that the town spent $10,000 in civil court on issuing a $50 fine. And that is where we've gotten to the point where we weigh and balance how we handle enforcement of dogs on the beach, especially when someone declares their animal a service dog and has no obligation to provide proof or documentation that the dog is or is not a service dog. So unless it's clearly defined as a non-service dog, meaning it's running loose, unleashed, fetching a ball in the surf, that is not a service dog. We can all agree on that. If it's clear cut like that, it gives us the enforcement ability very easily within our ordinance, and we address those issues. Those aren't the ones we deal with. The ones we deal with are the folks who are walking up and down the beach with their dog that has an insignia on the dog's collar or leash or whatnot, or immediately identifies the dog as a service dog and answers the 3 important questions that we legally are allowed to ask. And once we get to that point, we are done. We cannot detain them. We cannot ask them for their name, their date of birth, their address, or any other information without violating their civil rights. So we get to a point where we weigh and balance the enforcement mechanisms that we have in place with the ordinance and whether or not we want to get into a $10,000 confrontation with someone who knows their rights as well as we know what we're allowed to do. So you're going to see an increase, unfortunately, with service animals or animals that are declared to be service animals on the beach because the population is increasing around us, and therefore you're going to see that happening. That's why we do our very best to provide the presence, the patrols, the interactions, and rely heavily on residents calling us to make an official complaint, because that official complaint weighs higher than our own observations do when it comes to enforcing ordinances. So we definitely need residents to report those types of violations to us so we can go out and make those efforts to enforce it.
And aren't service dogs supposed to be leashed?
That's my question.
Yes.
Right, and not in the water. The
With
water is,
very few exceptions.
Right. Are there really exceptions
Yes,
to no
very,
leash?
very few.
Oh,
Okay, so
and
what's
not-
the fee?
Also
I
not
can
in the
tell you-
water.
I can tell you this from personal
Yes.
experience because I have
I've
one.
heard.
I have one, and there was a gentleman that actually mentioned a medical alert dog. That's
Right.
what my dog is. She has been trained for medical alert. There's 2 types of medical alert dogs. There's the one that actually comforts the person. That's mostly used for epileptic shock. And then there is the service dog that my dog is trained to be, which is a dog that goes out and seeks human to ask for
Help.
attention, to bring somebody into a medical situation. And that dog cannot be leashed. That dog actually has to be trained to be unleashed so it can escape the owner and go and find another human.
So the
being.
one you see running down the beach without the leash, 25 feet ahead of the person.
Those are typically clearly not service.
Right, okay, because that's
The one
That's
that
the
is in
majority of
ocean
what I
catching a ball is not a.
yeah.
You could be looking for a surfer to come help.
How much is the fine?
I love this. You
So
can't be wrong.
currently, a violation of a dog not being on a leash is $50.
All right, so I think that's one of the first things we need to tackle is make it hurtful for somebody to be walking on the beach. I mean, $50, that's nothing. I mean, if you're gonna give somebody a ticket for something that everybody's screaming about, make it something that's substantial.
And
Well,
then
according
the
to Betty,
second-
that's $500, so.
And then the second
$500.
The second major milestone
she
with
said
that
earlier.
is to actually get our residents
That was the elephant in the room that I think we need to lay out
because
there.
a large percentage of the
Our
interactions we have
absolutely.
are residents of Ocean Ridge.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know that.
And it's okay for us to issue a citation, But let's all be realistic. The moment I issue a resident a citation for a dog on the beach, I'm gonna have all 5 of you calling me asking me why we did that to a resident.
No,
me.
So I just want to make sure that we, and I'm not saying that negatively.
Right, no,
I'm
I
just
know.
saying
I'll be
that,
calling you and say, thanks a lot,
Me
give her a
too.
citation.
I'll be right behind you.
So we need their support, and then behind them, we need your support. So when they do call you and go, hey, the officers just wrote me a $50 ticket, you go, listen, we've been talking about this for the last 5 years, and I don't want to hear it.
Right.
You know, so we can kind of curb it, address it with our own people, so that we don't then have outsiders, and I use that term lightly, meaning those that don't live in our community, thinking that it's okay because they've witnessed our residents.
It's like parking. Somebody sees an illegal parker,
Absolutely.
they park right behind them. It's the
Absolutely.
same thing with the dog.
So that is the main issues that I feel it's important to talk about.
All right.
May I ask also
Raise
one
the
more question?
Mhm.
Bill Scarlett, resident, came up and talked about the dogs on the beach.
Right.
He mentioned that there was an incident where somebody got scratched.
Two
and An incident where somebody got bitten.
And
Was
neither,
that on the dog, on the beach, or was that?
neither one of them were reported, so we don't know.
Right. I heard from the crew that he lives next to about that, and the first thing I said was, did you call?
Every dog bite is required under state statute to be reported and investigated by animal control. So the fact that we don't know about them obviously prevents us from being able to look into whether that dog is an aggressive animal, how we handle that dog. And we have had those cases before in Bryony, where we've actually had to declare a dog a nuisance and go through that whole process. So we have done it. It's just, if we don't know about it, we can't address the issue.
Thank you.
All right, so we have agenda item 24, building officials report. Ronnie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our report is listed, but I needed to say something because a couple of people had said it to me. We have 16 permits shown. These are of major construction. There's actually probably another dozen that's not here that would actually fit that. But I'm told I don't make it clear the amount of work that we can do. We have a revolving door of permit applications. There are around 100 permit applications that we're moving between desks and between the engineer and between our zoning. And, you know, we have about 100 permit applications that are always active in and out, right? Then we have about 300 actual permits that we manage. We're doing inspections, you know, and then it's an in and out revolving door again. What we have listed here are just the major ones, the single family homes. They actually do take up a good portion of those 300 permits that we're talking about. But this is not all we do, okay? So just wanted to mention that, you know, we're still just, you know, moving along and we are, you know, managing a high volume of work. We do the best we can. Just like to applaud Lisa again, 20 years doing this. She's been through several building officials and she had to take on a lot and had to actually take on a lot of responsibility, you know, bridging the gap. And she is amazing with the amount of organizational skills that she takes. She, you know, and manages everything. So, you know, again, you know, if we step into the office, you know, encourage her, you know, we congratulate her for being here for 20 years and, you know, for the work that she does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, last of my mayor's notes, and I'll run through these, although we do have a few people left here. So thank you all for coming out this evening. First, I wanted to wish everyone the very best at the upcoming holidays. The town began its official celebration last Friday by restarting its Light the Lights event. We had a wonderful crowd, nice group of children, and a visit by Santa. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the staff and the police department for all their hard work bringing this event to fruition. Everybody here at Town Hall really put in the extra event to make this a successful evening for our residents. And thank you to the Garden Club for providing the home-baked treats. We have a lot of positive things on our plate for 2023, completing our new town manager search, the upcoming workshop for P&Z, and the commission going forward with septic to sewer board, continuing with our capital projects, our continual move into the digital age, addressing environmental and drainage issues, as well as potable water future. Much to do to keep our wonderful town moving forward. So stay tuned and stay involved. I'll also take the opportunity to wish everyone a happy and healthy new year, as our next commission meeting won't take place until January. There you go. Oh. All right, so are we there? Are we there?
Yeah.
All right. Quickly, move to adjourn before Martin speaks.